Welcome, everyone, to The Sigma Show, episode 103. I am your host, Sigma. Just before I let you know who is joining me this week, real quick, we'll go over what our topics are going to be. First up, we got a release date as well as some footage of FromSoft's next magnum opus, maybe, Armored Core 6. We'll talk about maybe what that looks like, whatever our collective histories are with the Armored Core franchise, and maybe what that trailer is hinting about what they're looking at in a post Dark Souls / Elden Ring world from the next From Software title. After that, the CMA finally has weighed in on the Microsoft Activision Blizzard, and they said no, get that shit out of here. they voted to block it. So Microsoft wants to appeal. We'll talk about like what this means for Microsoft, if there's like a way around this possibly, or if this is, you know, the end of at least their merger plans in the UK, like what could possibly happen afterwards. And here to discuss these topics with me, Frost.
It'd be me. I got thoughts and prayers about Armored Core and the CMA. It's gonna be a good time.
Nice. Rachel Kaiser.
Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been forever, I feel like, since Rachel's been on the show. And the We'll See Blogs.
I'm only here because Jeff, I know he's not dead. He's somewhere along the but I know he would want me here. He's looking down at me from Fortnite heaven saying you need to chat and let these people know. So I'm here. In for Jeff.
We're here to spread the Fortnite gospel.
It is Sunday.
Thank you all for joining. Welcome everybody in chat. See you, John Lee Wombly. Lampy subscribed at tier 2. Been subscribed for 27 months. Thank you so much. He's asking,
Thanks,
is that
Lampy.
the Will See Blogs? Oh no, he
No,
says,
it's
is that
just
a
a
Will
man's-
See Blogs?
Oh
Well,
wait,
it's
is there
more than one?
Pokemon versions of me? Because that's a world we don't want to live in, everyone.
I got clones. Wow.
But welcome
What
to
do
the
you
show,
evolve
guys.
into?
Probably a more depressed version of Frost.
We'll see article.
Will
You
be
know what's-
vlogs.
What's really getting me upset is that I've talked to my boss, and my boss has me saved under contact under We'll See Blogs, like last name blogs. And now everyone, I don't know when this became a thing, but
you
you know,
started
I did it for like SEO purposes, and now it's just gotten too far.
It's just
That's your
this is
identity now.
identity now. Yeah, like you own it.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez Louise. Okay.
Mr.
Sure.
Blogs joining us once again. Thank you so much for your time. Let's go ahead and jump into what we tend to do, which is talk about what we've been playing, watching, doing. Anybody feel like going first? I know there's a lot of releases that have dropped, stuff that's pending. What do you guys got for me? What can
I
these
don't
Rachel go
sleep.
around?
Yeah, Rachel,
I
you
don't
go
sleep.
first.
I mean, I can. I don't care.
Yeah, go
No,
ahead.
no, no. You have the most interesting background right about now. Frost and I are like playing demos and shit. So
Yeah,
I mean, I'm simultaneously playing. Oh God, I'm not even being able to keep track of it. Jedi Survivor, Dead Island 2. Oh wow, what else? Last Case of Benedict Fox, Bayonetta Origins,
Oh my
Damn.
god.
and the Burning Shores DLC for Horizon Forbidden West. So I haven't slept in 3 days.
See, Will, that's what real gamers are like.
Yeah.
That's my choice. It's my choice, and I'm not being forced. I just, you can't give me, Star Wars, a cool Eldritch adventure game, Bayonetta. You can't give me all that and expect me to choose sleep.
Did
Fair.
it run well for you, Benedict Fox?
Benedict Fox? Yes.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it ran
okay.
fine.
Mine is.
for the
Oh.
ignorant person, that's me. What is Benedict Fox? As I Google
The Last
search.
Case of Benedict Fox is a 2D puzzle platformer horror game with
Oh.
horror core elements.
Okay.
And-
Oh.
Like I think
And
it was
I've
revealed
seen
in,
it
like,
compared-
a PlayStation showcase a little while back.
Which is funny because it's on Game Pass.
Oh.
So
Oh, wait, I think I saw a trailer for this. Okay. All right. I can get into this.
I've been waiting for this for a little while, so I was really excited about it. But I like it's got really good art design and sound design, which I really appreciate. Some of the controls are a little bit iffy, and once you master them, sometimes the difficulty is not that impressive. But considering I got it on Game Pass and I didn't have to pay for it, I will take it, and I'm enjoying it so far.
It's worth free. Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth free. Yeah. Frost knows. Okay, like Benedict Fox. I can't speak on Bayonetta Origins or Burning Shores yet because I'm not that far into them.
Okay.
Dead Island is pretty okay.
That
It's
sounds about
not-
right.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of. I'll put it this way: I'm inclined to give it praise for existing, because, as in, like, for finally dropping out of the womb.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'm not especially in love. I'm not, it's not making my heart pound. Jedi Survivor is making my heart pound, and I know this wasn't the question you asked me, Frost, but it worked. I'm still amazed that that Jedi Survivor works better on my 4-year-old gaming PC than it does on my other work PC that is less than a year old.
I saw that. That was astounding.
It was. I
Can-
mean,
I don't know.
Can we talk
Yes.
about why this has become such a big thing? Because I'm not one of those people that that go to Steam immediately once a game launches. I expect in the day and age that we live in, everything to kind of be shit for the first, unless we get a day one patch. I know it's sad, but that's just kind of the reality of what it is. When I had a chance to access it via the Escapist account, I pulled it on my main rig, which has a 3060, which is nothing crazy. I think once you get past like the first maybe 20 minutes or so, everything was fine. I didn't really run into any other issues. And I even pulled in an RX 50, what is it called? Oh god, RX 570. Oh buddy, it's rough. But it also wasn't as rough with the experience that I had with my 3060. So I'm just like thoroughly confused as to what's going on.
this is a 2080, Will.
Oh Jesus Christ.
And it runs perfectly on this. I mean, granted on medium settings, but it runs perfectly. Like we're talking, I'm pulling like up to 60 frames per second. Maybe not necessarily
beautiful.
consistently, but I mean enough that I'm able to play it consistently. My other rig, which I to be fair, I didn't build myself. I had to get it prefab at the time because this was back when graphics card prices were still through the darn roof. But and I desperately needed, and I was really like big on the work PC. I really needed the work PC because I was starting to split my time. And anyway, point being just that it's got a much newer graphics card and it's generally a competent PC. I can run almost anything on it if I need to for work. Can't run this game. It is appallingly bad. Like I couldn't, like I tried to turn off ray tracing because I thought, oh, that's probably like eating up some.
Absolutely.
And so I thought, oh, I'll turn that off. The game crashes. Even after the 128 gig day one patch, I try to turn off ray tracing on my PC, on my work PC. The game crashes.
Yeah, like you make mention of a day one patch. Like, oh, they'll patch it. They did patch it.
They did.
They did patch it.
I mean,
And,
I
like,
got a
this
review
is
copy.
how it is.
I mean, I got a review copy of it, and I was playing it, and that's why, by the way, that's why there is no review on GamesBeat just yet, is because I was trying to play it up until launch. That wasn't happening, and I thought, oh, I mean, surely they said something about there being like a huge patch incoming, and in the pre-release materials, just generally, because I'm sure y'all saw the articles, and I was like, oh, I'm sure that means that there's going to be a patch incoming. It'll probably be playable after that. No. I tried to play on my work PC, and then I finally got bored and installed it on my on this old thing just to see if the problems were still consistent. And again, runs like a top. I don't understand it at all.
Something in that old hardware, and it's like, yeah, these young whippersnappers don't know what we dealt with.
Like
been
that,
around the
isn't
block.
that the essential problem with developing for PC hardware is that it's a crapshoot. Like there's so many different possible builds. Like there's no way to kind of optimize for all of them. Like the game ran fine for me when I played my 2 hours, but I did run into issues where like the sound just would either double or like completely unsync from the rest of the cutscenes. So like that was kind of annoying. But and this may not be the game's fault, but the fact that it's tied to EA means that it has to use the stupid EA Origin or whatever EA app they call it now.
The EA Play client.
Yeah, so like me trying to figure out a way how to play it on the shared account without being online at the same time somehow erased the save that I spent 2 hours on. So like it's just not there anymore. Like is that because the game is unoptimized, or is that because they're using this stupid EA thing for authentication? Who knows? Either way, like it's a bad experience.
We're not in a place to talk about it because we're at Ubi. I'm sure that we still got some games you gotta access it unless you got Steam directly. So
well, I mean, does because to be honest, the last time I launched a single player Ubisoft game is probably years from now. So like I couldn't tell you.
Years from now?
In the
I'm
future,
sorry, like,
you'll
years
let you
ago.
watch it.
Years ago.
Y'all watching from the future. It's actually tomorrow.
It's like
I'm
we
sorry,
get
I
on and
spoke
play
over you,
Assassin's
Rachel.
Creed.
But yeah, I'm not sure. Like, so the Uplay does the same thing. I'm guessing. Like, it forces you to connect to a thing.
I want to
play a
say
single player
yes,
game.
Yes,
but
it
also
does.
It does. Okay.
okay.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
because
so it's the same situation. Like, that's bad. Like, I don't like that as a.
When
as-
Eve stopped your checks, you know why. Sorry.
You have to
It's
get
okay.
into the Uplay to get your check now.
It's also,
oh,
I think
no.
we're just slightly spoiled because of the fact that our one perk is that we can access any of our games. So it's just like, I gotta go on Uplay or UB Connect, but also, am I paying anything for it? You know what I mean? So,
Well, I am paying for it, and I find it kind of crappy.
oh, you have every reason to be like that. As a consumer, yes. As for everyone else, or like for those who are in the company, who are just like, I'm sure people don't really give a shit about it, or do, but they're just like, whatever, free is free.
I think we're well. To be fair, I think at this point we're all sort of like, we've just sort of accepted that this is the price we have to pay to play Ubisoft games or EA games. And I mean, that was with. I think I even had to put put up with the EA Play launcher for Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Which I've played on console and PC, but I'm not obsessed at all. But I didn't. But when I fired that up and I was like, oh, EA Play, and I like, where's my where's that Horizon? Where's that the DLC for Mass Effect that you guys didn't port over? I want it back. I want it back. So, no, it's not a. I wouldn't necessarily say that was my major problem with Jedi Survivor. Like I said, I think we're all just sort of like accepting it's like, okay, I want to play a Ubisoft game, got to go through Uplay, got to pay the toll. So it's annoying, but at this point, it's like I feel like we've got so many other things to worry about with regards to games that it's that sort of like taking a back seat a little bit. When I had the luxury to complain like, Uplay auto runs when I play a Ubisoft game, when I had the luxury to complain about that, you'll know life is good for me.
Fair.
And that's why they keep doing these things. I'll Uplay it. I'll mod it. I'll get the patches. Consoles, like, no, bro, this thing sucks right off the rip. That's a bad time.
It's all the publishers' attempt to make a hub that they can take a percentage of the microtransactions or whatever that come from it. Because if they have to put it somewhere else, then somebody else gets a cut of the thing that they made. Like, that's all that really is, right?
Oh.
Like, if you play it out of the EA hub, then they don't have to pay Steam for hosting it there or wherever else it gets hosted.
Right.
Like, that's the whole reason that they bother to make those things. But like, they don't put a lot of effort into it because it's not their main business. It's like a workaround. Like, that's the whole reason it exists.
Yeah. If you have your own hub, I'm not playing your game. Simple as that.
I mean, it depends on the game.
Like,
Depends on the game.
You know, I can't tell you the last EA game or UB game I played. Sometimes I forget. I'm like, oh, I feel a little Assassin's Creed today. And I'm like, oh, I didn't feel
You're like,
Uplay
no.
today. It's like, I'm going to go play some Uncooked.
I mean, to be fair, it's never really caused me a problem before. The only time it did was when Ubisoft kind of, not discontinued, but I think when Assassin's Creed Liberation stopped working very well on my PC, and basically I tried to contact Ubisoft about it, and they're basically like, well, you gotta play Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered because Liberation comes packaged with that, and I was like, fine. So, to be fair, I ended up just getting it on my Vita, so.
There you go. Probably the better route.
Problem solved.
Probably. I guess with regards to Jedi Survivor in particular, I don't want to get too in depth because I know there are a lot of people who are still just getting into the game.
Right.
I think it is to Fallen Order what KOTOR 2 was trying to be to KOTOR. It is.
I don't know what that means,
yeah. That's
Knights
the
of the Fallen Republic. I don't remember.
Knights of the Old Republic. Yes.
Old Republic. Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
We play games.
But I mean, for those of you who don't remember KOTOR and KOTOR 2, KOTOR 2 was trying to be a little bit more lore heavy and more morally ambiguous, and examined more about what the Force is and how it affects everyday life in this universe. And getting into, I don't want this whole thing to just be like me nerding out about Star Wars. I'll just call Marty if that's what I need to do. But Yeah, so I think there's more of an element of presence in this game. Like Hal's actually like taking part in modern day things that are happening in the Star Wars universe at that moment, as opposed to having a little Tomb Raider adventure, which is what Fallen Order was.
Yeah, that bugged me a little because the main reason why I jumped into Fallen Order like so long after was because I was super hype off of finishing Rebels. I was like, I kind of just want more story in this time period of Star Wars. And like Cal's story is just so far removed from all of that. Like, yes, it takes place in the same time, but it has nothing to do with anyone else, and that kind of bummed me out. So it's good to hear that this one is a little bit more connected in some ways.
Yeah, and it's something that's always weirded me out about Star Wars video games is how preoccupied they are with the ancient past of Star Wars. Because that's a big deal in KOTOR, it's a big deal in the Old Republic. It's like, oh, let's go tomb raiding these old ancient Sith and Jedi tombs or whatever. It's like, you're in ancient Sith and Jedi times in Knights of the Old Republic and the Old Republic. Like, why are we why are we going on a Tomb Raider adventure in this? And that was kind of how I felt in Fallen Order. It's like, oh, by the way, you're a you're a hunted young man. You were part of a secretive order. It's very difficult for you to conceal who you are. You're being hunted by this entire overwhelming imperial force. And also, meanwhile, we're going to go raiding tombs for these ancient Jedi treasures and holocrons. And I'm like, what does this have to do with anything?
Didn't that happen?
I loved it. Don't get me wrong. I loved it, but it wasn't. But this one, Cal's actually doing things that are relevant at that moment. He's actually involved in stuff. So that's the one thing I can say that isn't a huge spoiler and that I really loved about this game so far.
Cool.
Well, I'll spoil it. Albus Dumbledore kills BB-8. I don't know what that is.
Probably did.
It sounds right. It's a fandom somewhere.
Who would win, Darth Vader or what's his name? The bad guy, Voldemort.
Oh.
It's gonna be the pink lady from Fortnite because I've killed so many Voldemorts. I mean, not Voldemort, so many Darth Vaders in that game.
Voldemort couldn't even take over a high school. I don't think.
Yeah, he struggled. He said, "Let me do some things, like 7 little pieces, and then everyone's gonna be like, all right, get wrecked."
It's literally as if Hitler was stopped at a prep academy.
Ooh, not even a good prep academy.
There's Harry Potter. Yeah.
Oh man,
his obsession with these kids, I hate it.
Tuition's gonna go up next year.
That discussion took a bit of a turn.
Sorry,
it's like here I am talking about Tomb Raider. All of a sudden, I'm hearing about Hitler in high school.
It all makes sense.
Hitler High.
Hitler
Come
High.
to the WB this fall.
I'm not gonna lie, I'd watch it.
I think we have to give it like another 20 years, so we're past the centennial mark,
right?
And then that'll be like more. They'll be more open to make that.
Harry Potter.
No, they're making Harry Potter tomorrow.
Oh
yeah. I was talking about the centennial of World War II, but
Ah, there we go. Too many centennials. Everything's getting rebooted, remade.
Yeah, next war coming right up.
Right. I'm ready.
Coming right up. Holy fuck.
Rachel, tell us about or did you not want to talk more about Dead Island 2? You said it was kind of
I will say, the only reason I don't necessarily want to talk about it is because I got a review coming out early next week.
Sure.
And I don't want to like waste all my thoughts already, but
yeah, because that's what we do here. We waste our thoughts on this.
Once I'm here, we're wasting thoughts.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want to give you all my good shit before I have to give the GameSpeed the good shit.
Dang, I was taking notes.
I was writing my review too.
Yeah.
I know. Just copied my notes. It's fine. Flashbacks to school. It's fine. I think one of my main points of criticism is that it basically has only one joke. Which is that, haha, the people in LA are, rich and don't know what's what. They're ridiculously out of touch. And I'm like, okay, funny. What else you got?
Oh, there's been too much of that.
I mean, so far, I haven't finished it yet, but that's basically the humor so far. I mean, the whole first part of the game is, running into like somebody's like a famous person's house. It's basically a fortress, and they're like, oh no, what's going to happen to my, Papagallo pumps or whatever? And I'm like, okay, that's funny the first time you do it, but by the time you've made that joke 17 times, I'm a little bit over it. I don't know. I'm starting to think like I never thought I'd say this, but I feel like we're bullying the rich assholes in LA just a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Like we're not like, are we not even going to address the fact that probably the Los Angeles's vast homeless population is where this entire zombie apocalypse is, like where the cannon fodder in the zombie apocalypse is coming from?
Oh wow.
Dang.
Yeah, are we not even like, if we're going to do social satire, let's go all in on it.
Let's
not
homeless
just sit here
zombies?
and-
That's crazy.
Hmm?
Like you're getting got by homeless zombies? That would make me more interested to play it.
I'm just saying, if we were going to go for social satire,
Right.
like why not push that a little bit more? That the fact that the vulnerable people in Los Angeles society are the ones who are, by and large, turning into zombies because they have no form of protection, and the out of touch people are the ones who can afford to save themselves. Like make it a thing about capitalism or something. Don't just sit here and be like, haha, the people in LA are rich and out of touch.
But Rachel, haven't you heard? Should you go woke, you then go broke.
According to Star Trek.
I mean, I didn't realize criticizing capitalism counted as being woke.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
Is that all it takes? I've been woke since birth.
See, my issue there is there seems to be this trend where you go, you know what? Let's show rich people not having a good time. People like that. It's like,
Yeah,
I'd
no,
rather
there's
just
a legitimate
not see
trend
the rich
in that.
people.
Yeah, there's a lot of
It's
media that is doing
It's
exactly
like
that.
eat the rich media. I was like, I'd rather just not see the rich, just in general. I don't care if they get their comeuppance. I'd rather just not see them.
Does not have to deal with them or
Yeah, not have to deal with that. So it was like what's that show? Secession, I think.
yeah, Succession is that.
Yeah, rich assholes like not getting. It's like, oh, it's okay because they're having a bad time. It's like, yeah, but they all annoy me. I don't care if they're having a good time or a bad time. They all annoy me.
I mean, honestly, Rachel, I feel like you might just. I think you're giving him too much credit because it's Dead Island. Dead Island was never good.
It was goofy though. It was
Well, I'm
fun
saying
to
I'm
look
not
at.
I'm not going to give it leeway just because it exists.
Mhm.
I
It's
think
like-
I think you're just shooting for the moon at that point. I was like, it's Dead Island. We were gonna get trash regardless. You get what you get.
Bro, do you remember the intro to Dead Island 1?
Did we
Voodoo,
just-
you voodoo on a
Did
resort?
we just meet Will? I mean, criticizing shit because I can is kind of my deal. It's what I'm literally paid to do.
You're right. You're right. I'm sorry. The more I think about it, because I was having this conversation with my boss about Dead Island, and he was like, "Why are they making two? And also, why?" Like we did further research, obviously, because he wasn't paying attention. He's like, "Why did it get like, kind of just like a foster, not a foster animal? Someone watched it for a bit and then gave it back, and then it just kind of whipped through back and forth." And I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Look, I don't know. The fact that anyone seriously is interested in playing Dead Island 2, I mean, more power to you if you need that zombie killing. I guess it's just, for me, it's just like not a topic of conversation within my circle of people who play games.
No,
So
no,
it's just
I
like,
feel where you're coming from. In that Dead Island as a series kind of never piqued my interest and was interested in. But for a lot of people, it was. Like the first game apparently was like a really big hit, like much bigger than I believe the devs even imagined. So like the sequel was highly anticipated and ran into a bunch of snafus before eventually coming out in this state. So who knows if this is what they originally intended for it to be, or if this is like the best they could muster after however long it took it to be developed. But
didn't the first Dead Island drop in like 2011?
Yeah, around
If it's
there,
past a decade, I don't give a shit about it.
because they gave it out for free like
Yeah.
3 years later.
So,
The reason is because they had a fun cinematic trailer that everyone liked. And it was like, okay, where's Dead Island 2? And like it kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And at that point, wanting Dead Island 2 was, I don't think very many people were sincere about it. I think it was more meme than anything else. And
that
by the
makes
way,
sense.
just to answer your question, chat, I wasn't seriously like assessing LA's current social situation. I was saying we could have made a cool social satire. I'm not commenting on, whether we should actually turn like the homeless population of California into zombies. I don't claim that. I'm just saying we could have had a social satire there, and they chose instead to just have like, But anyway, my point being just that they put out a cool cinematic trailer, and people for a while were like, "Hey, where's Dead Island?" And then Dead Island 2, and then it became, Goat Simulator was parodying that trailer.
right.
So I think at that point it was more obligation than anything.
Fair.
And I will stress, it's not a horrible game. It's a fun game. It is fun. You go around cutting up zombies and bashing their heads in. That's fun. It's just, I wish the game didn't only have one joke to make.
Right.
And that's
I
fair.
wish-
That's a
I
fair
wish it
criticism.
leaned into the silliness a little bit more,
There you go.
and just had even just a little bit more fun with it than it already does.
Yeah, and maybe release the game within the decade it drops. Like, don't be dumb. People loved Black Flag, and now we have Skull and... Oh, I'm seeing a hit. Okay, I see it. We're doing
You
it.
talked yourself into that one,
I
Will.
did it. I done did
You
it.
gotta wait for the era of pirates. You gotta wait, Will.
Don't worry, it's coming
Yo-ho-ho.
back. It's coming back around. It's taken so long that pirates are
Second
going to be
bit.
cool again.
We have to have a Gladiator thing first. And
That's
I think
co- that
Gladiator
is
2 is
coming.
coming out.
It's
So,
coming,
yeah.
yes.
Right after that, we get pirates again.
God damn it.
Okay.
I don't
Doesn't
know. I
matter
could go
what-
for
back right after.
Doesn't matter where the conversation goes. It's coming back is the theme.
I feel like you should be the poster child for that. So when everyone gets mad, they can just point at you and be like, "Yeah, that was him. We knew it."
What did I do?
You're like trying to bring back pirates. Remember when
I'm not
pirates
trying
and
to.
ninjas were a thing?
This is my decision. Generally
I
speaking.
mean, we're already bringing back Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, like that. That was a thing.
Skull and Bones coming.
Something
Yep,
big
definitely
just
pre-order it.
happened in the One Piece manga. I don't know what it is because I'm trying to avoid spoilers, but I know folks are talking about it.
He found the One Piece.
I don't. I
The
think,
one piece of the puzzle found.
Found it.
I think it's something to the opposite of that effect. But I'm not looking into it because I don't want to be spoiled.
Right.
Oh, that reminds me. Just to change the subject a little bit here, since I've been talking about what I've been playing, what I have been watching one thing a little bit when I have like some spare time, and I've been trying to finish up the first season of Spy X Family.
Nice.
So I have very, very strange and specific tastes in anime. I'm not really. I don't really like anything too bombastic or over the top. You know, I kind of just tune out a little bit. It's a holdover from watching Dragon Ball when I was younger.
Sure.
And every time I watch an episode of Dragon Ball, it seems like they're like, but that's impossible, but it's happening anyway. And I'm like, well, darn, at that point, what do I even?
Yeah, they kind of go back to the same formula fairly
That's
often.
my favorite
in
part.
Yeah,
Dragon Ball Z.
but I mean,
fight Frieza for 6 episodes.
That's like the end of Hercules, Rachel. He's
What's
a
it-
god.
I mean, but that wasn't a defiance of what they specifically said was impossible, Frost.
That's fair. That
was
fair.
that was the whole end
That was
game
the
of
whole
the movie that they
stipulation.
were
Yeah,
going
you're right.
towards. But I'm saying that was my issue with Dragon Ball and the anime that was there at that time, and I will say a lot of anime that is out there now, which is that, you know, they'll set out like what they say are the boundaries of what's possible, only so that the heroes can dramatically sail past that boundary, and or the villains, for that matter, can villainously sail past that boundary just to up the stakes a little bit, and it gets old. So
Yeah,
I
because it's been
I
going
like
on for so
relatively.
long.
I like relatively low stakes and silly anime. My favorite is School Babysitters, because the main character is ridiculously cute, and that's all I need. And that's kind of the same reason I like Spy X Family. It's
Yeah.
just the main character, who is Anya, is ridiculously cute, and I want to smush her little cheeks.
Yeah, Spy Family
I can't argue
is
with that.
great.
To be
What?
fair, old Goku was built on that premise, doing the Kamehameha like on his first try. It's like, wait, what? What is
Yeah.
this? And Vegeta overcoming mind control out of sheer ego. Like that was kind of the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's bad. It's just not what I prefer in my
It
anime.
got
Fair.
old. That's my whole thing. Like I love that stuff too. Like I grew up watching it too, but it definitely got old after a point. And like they kind of have not like they've not changed that formula. They're like, this is what the people liked in the past, so we're just gonna keep doing that.
Yeah, put that in my veins, bro. Straight up.
Yeah, I was about to go out. I could deal with that. But also in the same vein, I can't talk shit because I think of, isn't One Piece like long as fuck? Like,
Yes.
It has to get repetitive at one point. I'm just.
That's the thing. It doesn't. And
Yeah,
maybe
I
I don't like pirates as like a media entity, like as a group of collection of whatever's traits. Like I
Pop
think pirates
culture.
are kind of I think pirates are kind of ass in general. But One Piece
Wow.
tells a really fun story. Like they're like they don't have to be pirates. Like the power system and the characters that exist in that world and like the world's politics really have nothing to do with the fact that they're pirates. It's just what the theming is. But I really like the storytelling, and it hasn't gotten old. Like it's actually very intricate and well done.
Pretty solid. Yeah, even if they do win, the execution is just like, whoa, didn't see that coming. It's also not, that was impossible. No,
Yeah.
it was just very much possible, just unexpected.
It also doesn't help that I feel like I grew up on Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. So whenever an anime doesn't have it, I'm like, it's kind of horse shit. I want to see some craziness go on. I want to see them complaining over
Mexican
2
culture.
episodes.
We love that. They be
And I'm-
playing it on the walls of buildings.
Mhm.
Everybody's watching it, and they all want to scream and power up with them. It's
Yeah.
just part of it. It's tradition.
And I'm over here like, I just want to watch a bunch of cute kids in daycare.
But that's
Yeah.
also
I'm with
fantastic
you.
that there's an option because
There's an option, yeah.
The same time when I found out about that basketball anime Karuko or whatever, I didn't
Kuroko's
finish
Basket.
it, but I was just like, yeah, I'm like, y'all just playing basketball, y'all being annoying, but I like it. I don't know. It's just it was a nice little change of palette for me, you know, just good, different.
Sports anime is high tier in general. Just pick a random sport, watch it. It's probably good.
Do you
Nah,
not like
say
regular
that.
sports?
Who, me? No, I love sports. Sports are great. I just don't follow like professional sports anymore.
So what do you follow?
Anymore.
I don't follow. I follow the gaming industry. It's a full-time job.
I might get back on sports because of the whole Disney, Hulu, ESPN bundle. Probably be cheaper. I'm like, hey, sports.
It doesn't really sound convincing.
He's like,
Sports.
sports.
Eh,
But
I'm done.
Okay, does that
I'm done.
wrap you up?
Someone else
Rachel?
wants to go. Yeah.
Since we're on the topic of anime, that's probably the main thing I've been watching. So I can go next. I finished season 1 of Vinland Saga, which is on Netflix. It's about Vikings. It's somewhat historical, and I've gotten to the end of everything they have of season 2, and I didn't realize. Apparently, are they releasing those episodes on a weekly basis?
Vinland Saga? You
Yeah.
might have to ask Nick for that. He's the only one watching that.
Because I thought it was weird that once I got to the end, it said new episode Monday, May 1st or whatever. I think tomorrow's May 1st. So I was like, wait, episode like singular? And then like you look on the list of episodes and it says like May 1st for just episode 17, which is the next one. And I'm like, oh wow, when did they start? I know Netflix was experimenting with releasing certain shows 1 week at a time, but like they've done that with like original anime series as well. I don't know if I like that, especially since season 2 has been kind of boring. Like it's a complete gear shift from the first season, which was very, very in the thick of a lot of conflict, and like the main character who eventually kind of becomes more of a background character as the situation expands, like. He has a very compelling like arc. Without spoiling anything, like he's on a revenge story, but his revenge story kind of puts him in the lap of the people he's trying to get revenge on. So like he's with those people for the majority of the time. The way that concludes is like very, very compelling. But then season 2 starts like years from then, and he's in a completely different location. He's in a completely different situation, and he's very much a very different person. And like you're kind of very slowly figuring out kind of how he got there, what he's going through, and then are waiting patiently because they check in on some of those older characters from time to time. You're very patiently waiting for those worlds to reconnect so that it can get interesting again, because it has not been interesting while everyone is far away, separated, and kind of going through these very slow-paced character growth. And the thing is, there is legit character growth going on here. Like I don't want to take away from the fact that the writing is good in terms of fleshing out like what the main character was going through in the first season, because you're kind of seeing it happen. Now they're kind of reflecting on it in the second season. But it is super slow. Like 16 episodes before you start to get to like conflict again. I think that's a lot.
Isn't anime mostly filler anyway?
I mean, not shows like this. Like the first season is only 24, so like it's relatively short. Like it's not like they're, it's not like a weekly. Well, that's the thing. They're releasing it weekly now, so like maybe they are trying to make it that slow. But like if you're gonna, I feel like that works against you if your season is gonna be that slow paced and you have to wait weeks between episodes. Like if I'd been watching this on a weekly basis, I think I'd have dropped it a long time ago. Because I'm considering dropping it now, just because the next episode I wanted to watch wasn't there, and I have to wait a day.
Yeah, see, it sounds like Black Clover.
Black Clover is terrible. Black Clover.
Did you watch it as it was coming out weekly? That
No,
made it
I was
worse.
binging it.
Good.
I
It
binged
was a
like 20
horrible
episodes against my will because folks were telling me how good it was.
Who was telling you the thing was good?
I don't know. I gotta stop
I would
listening.
say watch it, but I can acknowledge it's not good. Man, just screaming "My Horte" the whole damn time.
See, this is why I always struggle with animes, because I got to get to the point where I have to go online and be like, yo, what's a filler episode and what's not? Because
Nah,
I
see,
just
Will,
can't
you
sit
might
through
like
that.
it. because we like that whole like overcoming impossibilities thing. You might
Right,
like
but I don't know if I could sit through it anymore because now at the fact that like I just feel like every day I'm balancing my time and I'm
Fair,
never getting
fair,
enough time to get like the shit that I know. Like for example, escapist stuff. Then we got Ubisoft stuff. Then when the work day is over, I'm trying to catch up on regular shows with my fiance. So we're now watching like Modern Family and we're getting through smaller binges in there. But wait, guess what? She's bored. Now we're gonna play Fortnite. Guess what? Now it's 10 o'clock and day's over. So it just kind of repeats. And I'm like, yo, where the fuck am I gonna get the time to watch all this other horseradish? So now
You gotta stop playing
I'm just
Fortnite.
stuck.
I
Don't
get
ever
kid-
disrespect. Don't do that.
I'm
There's
sorry.
one thing you can't
I'm
do.
sorry,
It's not
Will.
that.
I don't make the rules.
I get kidnapped like once every 2 weeks.
I feel like that's what I'm about to put a hit on myself, and you're gonna have to be the person because it's just I can't do it. And I want to watch all these animes. Everyone's recommending. I could again put on a whole literal fucking podcast or like a book club or manga, whatever anime club, trying to figure out what's going on. It would take forever. It would never end because I'm always behind. Again, everyone mentions Naruto. I'm still in the trees. I don't know what's going on. He had kids. What? Someone's with that? I don't understand.
See, if
I
you never watch Naruto, you could watch Black Clover. It's the same thing.
Yeah, Black Clover is an unabashed copy of Naruto's energy.
Right, but I also
it's
put in
bad.
100 episodes, so do I stop?
Oh, you're committed.
What am I supposed to do?
100 episode of Black Clover or Naruto?
Not Black Clover, Naruto.
I did.
I also was in middle
Trash.
school when everyone loved Naruto. So I just was just like, everyone's doing the dash, and I'm like, I don't understand. So it's a little bit of FOMO. I know everyone's like, Naruto's trash. I got you, honey bun.
Honey Bunny says Naruto isn't worth it. I disagree. I think Naruto is a great series. It does have filler that will like
outdone it.
derail you. But like if you're really struggling with like OG Naruto, just start at Shippuden and then go towards the end from there. I think that will work. There's enough flashbacks for you to get the full picture of what the hell happened in the series.
I love how Will just told you he doesn't have time to watch anime, and
you
you're
said,
like,
"Fuck it."
start with this massive this massive Naruto.
Well, that wasn't
series.
for Will. That was for the
This is
general
why
populace.
I don't listen to you because your recommendations always fuck me over, dude, and I hate it.
Bro, just monetize it. That's what I do. The amount of people
Get
that
someone
want,
to pay you.
yeah,
to
the
watch
amount of
anime.
oh god, no. If on Fiverr, watch Naruto for me and write down like main notes.
I need Chat GPT. Please explain all of Naruto every episode.
There it is. Friendship and
That might
whatnot.
work.
Nah,
Try it.
just do what I do. Like,
watch it.
don't give into the FOMO. Yeah, don't watch it because later, 30 years from now, they're gonna look for person who has not seen or played X. I want their reaction. I don't like games journalists and games critics. I want to hear from somebody who has never played this before because they're all biased. I don't know why that. We're a hot commodity, Will. We're exotic.
One day we're gonna be valuable.
The ignorant. Yep. Hot commodity.
Don't say the ignorant. We'll
Casey, you
quickly
and I
change
are
that.
going to be like old news because we're like
Ignorance,
this.
yeah.
We're the gaming press, and everyone thinks we're sellouts.
We need both. 'Cause
Well, no,
that's
yeah,
what they
there's
want.
definitely a
They
balance.
want those.
We need
people
the
who know all
sellouts
this
and we need the
stuff.
ignoramuses. Okay.
Yeah.
You use
And
the
even
big
then,
word.
that didn't make him happy. It was me and Yahtzee were playing Signalis, and they're like, he's played too much Silent Hill. Of course he wouldn't like it. And me, I've never touched a hill, silent or otherwise. And they get mad at me for never having touched one and not liking Signalis. I was like, I don't know what y'all want.
So neither
Shoulda
of you
had
like
Marty.
Signalis because that one, like, folks were like,
It was
big
okay.
on it.
It's the thing.
Okay.
It was okay. The problem is there's like a little cult around it, and if you
Sure.
don't like it, you are offending the hill.
Yeah,
I mean,
like Pokemon.
I love
like
Signalis,
Mega
and
Man
I'm not
Battle
offended.
Network.
I'm today
You're
years
reasonable,
old
right?
when I found out it's not Signalis. I've been saying Signalis all this
I don't know
time.
how
No
you
one ever
say it.
corrected me. Here I am, ignoramus in full effect.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I've. Well, no, I've been making a lot of headway in Netflix's Beef series starring Stephen Yuen and Ali Wong.
It's a trip.
Yeah, it's a trip. There's a lot of shows that have like this sort of like chaotic energy to them, and like it's hard to tell exactly like what this is about. Like to explain to someone, like you can tell them like what like the premise of like the first episode, which is essentially the two main characters get into a road rage incident, and then they begin to have sort of a back and forth cat and mouse situation of trying to get the other one back, right? But this this situation between these two individuals infects their lives and their families' lives in like this really insidious way, and like it's like really sad and depressing, but also like super compelling to watch. So like I'm way into it. But like yeah, but like it does leave you feeling a little way afterwards. Like it's
How
like
far are you?
um I don't want to spoil anything because I don't remember the episode number, but there was a time skip, and then the first episode of that
All
time
right,
skip.
all right, all right. I see what you are. Okay.
right.
Yeah,
So-
I finished that off of Marty's recommendation. I was
Yeah,
like, what
yeah.
the hell did I just watch? It is basically, the premise is basically the kind of people that you think road ragers are. That's it. That's them. The kind of people that would road rage have an adventure. And,
An adventure. Yeah, that's one way to put it.
No.
But like I again, I want to say that the performances are amazing. Like almost everyone who has screen time, like they eat up every single like scene and line that they have. Like I love watching all the actors perform on this show. And like Marty said as well, like the needle drops, like the music choices and like where they put them, like usually to like end off an episode or like just before the end of an episode. And like, how do I explain this? Because needle drop is the word, I guess. But like, you guys remember how the first season of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure would like lead into the end credits with Roundabout from the band Yes? No? Like it's become a meme. Like where like they play like the guitar solo just before the beat drops and then it goes to be continued.
You're missing.
Well,
No.
what he's trying to say is that by the end of the episode, a song starts playing depending on what's going on, but it's usually like not the best song to be playing given the title. It's like the irony that the best for CPR is staying alive. You know, that's basically beef. It very ironically,
Yeah, it's like
maybe we should play this song right now.
The song does not fit like the mood, but it fits the situation. Like you'll hear the lyrics, and the lyrics are telling you what the characters are feeling, just as like the scene. Like it's brilliantly placed in my opinion. Like I love it so much. Like it definitely like deserves attention, and I hope folks are paying attention to like their musical choices as they do this throughout the season because it's really really good.
That's the weirdest sense of humor, man. So, I don't fuck guns. It's like, well, you can't really say much to that, can you?
I love it. It's a great show. It may not be for everyone, but I'm a fan.
Bro, it wasn't for me, and I liked it.
Well,
I will not watch that again.
But I think that's pretty much it for me in terms of like watching.
What you been playing?
What you been playing? I've been playing Metal Unit, which
Nice.
I talked about this already on Breakout, but like it's a roguelike. It's a 2D pixel art action platformer. It's essentially like very basic like mecha anime in tropes. Like, oh, you play like the young anime girl and like her sister defected to the enemy side, and so you're piloting a mech to try and find her. But there's a conspiracy. Everything is not what you thought it was or whatever. But the story is fine. It feels really fun to play, and it has like this really cool system. Whereas you know how you get like random power ups as you go on your runs. Any junk that you find, like anything you don't want to use, you can synthesize and like mix two things together and get something new. Some stuff some stuff will always give you the same thing. Like you can put two broadswords together and get like a giant sword. Or you can mix any two random things. It'll give you like a percentage chance of getting like a random rare item or a random common item or whatever. And then you can take those new items and you can synergize them with other things to see what you get. So like the experimentation with the synergy stuff and then the synergy between the stuff that you all have equipped is addicting. Like I kept wanting to just see what else I could get out of that system, so I could then run back into the levels and start messing around with it and see how overpowered I could get. And you can get pretty overpowered. You can have like a ton of projectiles flying out of you every time you shoot a thing. You can have a sword that swings the distance of like half the screen that you're on and stuff. Like it can get really fun. You can get super powerful.
You just piqued Frost's interest.
Yeah, no, those are my favorite. I like rogues just by nature, but my favorite ones are the ones that have this balance of varied gameplay. So you just are. It's mostly about experimenting instead
Yeah,
of just
the
I won.
experimentation is what
No, it's just
hooks
like,
you.
oh my god, what crazy stuff can I do? And you see some things that go like double length of sword, and you go, what happens if I put 6 of these?
Yeah, like you
Like,
can
all right,
like you can
and
figure out
it
like
lets
weird
you do
puzzle,
it.
and like there's a slight puzzle element to equipping stuff as well, because you have like an AI partner, and your AI partner, you can unlock the ability to equip certain things to the AI partner, but only certain things will fit there. So stuff you can hold, you can then take off of you and give to your AI partner, and then hold other stuff so that you can use them together. But depending on who's holding what, it might be better for your AI partner to have it, because the situation that will trigger it is something that might be more commonly done by like you or your AI partner. Like there's a bit of strategy to that as well, which is also like, oh, what's the optimal way to use all the stuff I have right now?
Right.
So it becomes like a little meta game, which is like it's very addicting. Like I've been really enjoying
It's
it.
kind of hot. I like it. I like the sound of that.
So yeah, Metal Unit, a very basic ass name, but I think it was on sale on Steam for like $3. So like if you're interested at all, like you can go grab it now. I hope it's still on sale, but like yeah, it's pretty cheap, pretty fun time. But yeah, I played Little Jedi Survivor, but I only got like as far as like about 2 hours in. Like I don't think I left the prologue. Like I got on the ship and made it to the first planet and then stopped there. So I don't really have too much more to say, other than I think it feels a little better than the last one did, because I was a big critic of how the last game felt overall. Like I think it was pretty janky, and this one does feel a bit more put together. At least the way Cal controls, like in terms of like Rachel's being attacked by something.
Yeah.
Oh, Mecha.
You said
Gonna-
mecha. You summoned my husband.
Yeah.
No, I don't need the
Attacked
mecha.
by-
I
Being-
don't need
Shut
the
up.
mecha.
She's being
No.
Gundam.
No, no,
Got by an Evangelion.
no.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I've been playing.
I'm sorry.
No,
No, you're good. This is
fine.
the content we need.
I mentioned mecha to my husband in my husband's general direction, and he suddenly out of nowhere.
Good. Excellent.
nice. But Frost, Will, either of you want to share what you've been playing, watching, listening to?
Frost, you want to rock,
Going
paper, scissors,
through-
Bert?
This is
I
safe
just
space.
go because I've been writing and editing so much that I haven't had time to play much. Mostly demos, as Will said. Like the demo for Viewfinder just dropped.
Oh yeah, I downloaded that. I need to try that.
Yeah, I'll probably spend an hour in it, which you're gonna judge me for because you're gonna get through and be like, "How do you spend a whole hour doing this?" And yeah, just mostly demos, and then I got Wild Frost. I held out on this because I played the demo for Wild Frost a while ago, and I went, "This is kind of a little janky." It's number one, aesthetic, beautiful, grand, gorgeous, love it. But the way it played out compared to other roguelike deck builders, I went, I could do without it. But right now, it's been super split on the rogue community where they go, this game is amazing, this game sucks, and it mostly comes down to how hard it is. So I was just like, you know what? I'll give it a go. All I'll say is this is the failing for games journalists, because if you're a film critic, watch a film for 2 hours, 3 hours, boom, that's it, you're done. This game, I'm like, how do you guys have an opinion after any amount of time in this game that isn't in the triple digits? Like, I have so many thoughts, and it just keeps changing as I keep playing it, where I go, yeah, I like it, but I don't think it's all that good, and vice versa, and it just keeps on growing. And I was like, you know what, this is a weird little game. I don't know how I feel about it. But yeah, so for the past like week and a half, whatever that's been, tried out Benedict Fox, did not work for me. Might have just been the PC I was on. I'll try again later. Like it was just not running.
Jeez.
Put it on a lower graphics card. You got it.
Maybe, right? But yeah, no, I love the graphics. I love all that. Yeah, see? I think I know the voice actor for it because I saw the casting call for it a while back. That was like right when I was leaving voice work stuff, and I was like, that game looks interesting. I hope that becomes a thing. And yeah, it's a Metroidvania, little Souls-like, and a little point-and-click adventure kind of thing. It's a strange mesh of a lot of genres with an eldritch overtone. It's quite nice, quite nice.
Interesting.
Watching what I watch, I watched 2 episodes of Twilight Zone in the past week. That's it.
Like the new one?
No, the old one.
Oh, the old
20
one.
minutes. Yeah, because these newer
Which
ones. I watched. What was it? It's the one where they land on the asteroid that's actually a funeral home. And yeah, this is season 1 stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, this is season 1 stuff. My issue with these newer sci-fis like your Black Mirrors, your Twilight Zones, and all that is that they always go super deep philosophical. Whereas Twilight Zone back in the day was just weird. Where it goes, what if your eyeballs were actually your nose? You know, like just that. Not like, oh, the biggest thing to fear in this world is man and their greed. And it's like, no, what if you had no ears, or you could only hear through your anus?
Well, see, the problem is that you just like the weird shit in general. It
No, I like them
shows
both. I like them
No,
both.
I'm not saying that otherwise, but
Right.
I would argue you lean towards weird in media, and I can't be mad at it, but it's
Right.
also just something I look at and I'm like, I wish I could fucking do that.
I
Because
like
sometimes,
I like the juxtaposition because you can't just be weird. They have some really good, like some thinker ones in Twilight Zone.
yeah,
I
yeah,
enjoy that. But then they offsettle it with just like, all right, this guy's got
Yeah.
weird luck. Whereas like Black Mirror, it's always philosophical and deep. It's always that.
Yeah, and it's not always like, you know, weird trippy shit. Like there's that one episode of Twilight Zone where a guy agrees to not talk for a year in exchange for winning a bet, and the guy he actually fulfills his end of it, and the guy he made the bet with can't pay him, and it turns out he cut his vocal cords. It's like that's not even like particularly horrifying, but it's like, hey, how far will you go to get some money? That's literally the only thing. I mean, yeah. Like I see what Frost is saying. It's like everyone always remembers the really like deeply like nightmare fuel or deeply like philosophical episodes of Twilight Zone. That was like a very small percentage of them, all told.
But then arguably wouldn't that mean that those were the better ones? The ones that people remember for being
See, I think it makes them stand out. That's the thing. So like as much as people for anything as a fan of literature, I love my books, but I also love short stories. Right? Everyone talks Tom Sawyer, but what about Mark Twain's shorter things, et cetera, et cetera. But no, I think it is more so just the juxtaposition. It feels like quote unquote filler, but you're enjoying yourself as it builds up to the big ones. Whereas Black Mirror is just each one is bah bah bah.
And
It feels like
that's probably a symptom of the
multi-
times too. Like no show has the time to build up with like quote unquote filler episodes, right? Like everyone has to be a knockout hit, otherwise you get canceled.
But they were, because again, they're just like short, little, intimate. If you say, if I say, what's his bloody name, Stephen King, you could probably name all of his books. But how many people have read The Veldt, which is just a small? Oh, is it The Veldt? No, what's it called? See, I can't even tell you the title. It's just a short story about teleportation, and it is. It gets you. It gets under your skin. It gives you the goosebumps like any of his other stuff, and that just makes you appreciate it more. Sometimes you're not in the mood for all the big, hefty, dense stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
But just because it's short, it doesn't mean it has to be garbage.
right. I don't think it's like a quality thing. I just think the audience kind of shifted, and because of that, with the times, it was just more like, all right, cool. Because I get what you're talking about. Like I remember watching Twilight Zone with like my grandparents and just kind of watching whatever. Like we didn't think too much about it. It was just like something that was cool and weird. But then, you know, I obviously remember that they dropped a CBS reboot, and I enjoyed that quite a bit. I don't know why, because I'm usually not the type of person that likes sitting down and hitting for like those heftier, carby pieces, rather. But like, you know, it depends on the mood. So yeah. I definitely do think that kind of what you were saying, where Casey got in was like, is it making it better? I don't know if it objectively makes it better, but rather more so at the fact that it resonated with others because of the fact that it starts making you think. As to where the other one's just like,
by better,
my nostrils
like
on my ear.
It's the one that people remember, like they latched onto. So like that's the like when you want to get a reboot of a thing, people are trying to invoke the thing they remember. Like it's all nostalgia bait anyway, right? So like they probably focus on the vibe that people keep remembering. It's like, oh, remember that guy who kept seeing a monster on the airplane wing? That one. Let's do that again.
Yeah, it's also like the SNL of it's like if you have the context of the time, it is imagine SNL but just creepy, right?
Right.
I can see that. Where you go, oh, it's all those actors from all that. Like, what would they do there? Whereas we don't really have something like that. That is just an anthology, and they keep ripping just these famous people for 20 minutes too. It's only 20 minutes instead of the longer episodes in season 4. Yeah, no, that's just been that's been it for me. Yeah.
Chat asking Rachel's opinion on Perry Mason.
I mean, it took me a minute to realize they were talking about the new Perry Mason.
Yeah, the new one.
It's like I was like, I'm literally writing a blog about the original Perry Mason TV show. Like, what do you want from me? But the new Perry Mason, it did take me a while to settle into like the different. It's a different directive. It's a different direction
Mhm.
for Perry Mason because the original novels, Earl Stanley Gardner's whole thing was that he believed the law should take front seat in a series about a lawyer, and he never really delved into Perry Mason's personal life. I mean, Perry was never like personally invested in a whole lot of these stories. There was
Mhm.
not this whole like Sam Spade, Philip Marlowe thing where he falls for some woman in the case, and it's like she had all the curves of a racetrack or something like that. There's
love
none of
that.
there's none of that bullshit. It's just Perry Mason
No.
being a good lawyer, and that was what he believed was that he actually like refused to sell the rights to the Perry Mason TV show until he found somebody who was willing to work with him to make a show that is about the cases, and because he would not sell the rights to the show to somebody who was going to make a melodrama about Perry Mason's like life and love
Right.
life and all that
It's
horseshit.
I mean, it's called Perry
And
Mason, though. I feel like
it's a modern conceit. Like, this is why I fucking hate Law and Order, is because now 90% of Law and Order is about the detectives' personal lives, and I'm
Yeah.
like, stuff it. But it did take me a while to settle into this new like direction that you're going with Perry Mason, because my initial thought was, cool, this isn't Perry Mason. But I will admit it took me a while, but it does win me over. I think I haven't watched the second season yet, but I mean, it's got a lot of really good performances and a lot of really good art direction, so I can't really be that mad at it. Not forever. It did win me over eventually.
I have a question on the side of Team Ignoramus. What is Perry Mason?
I did the Google searches too. I figured it out as well.
Well, what is the?
It's
what
okay.
is
You didn't have to
Perry
know in
Mason?
order to like listen. In order to, you didn't really need context. You just need to know that I was ranting. But yes, Perry Mason is the original law procedural TV show based on a
Oh,
series of novels by a novelist named Earl Stanley Gardner, who was himself a former lawyer.
cool.
Mm.
All right. Yeah, it's more so like the cultural thing because I keep seeing it and it looks intriguing, but the way people just rip just Perry Mason, Perry Mason, I was like, I feel I should have known who this is.
At least
Yeah,
you've had
it's a
like
show
some
I've-
people saying it.
yeah,
'cause
it's
I
a
have
show
no
I've
idea what it was.
never seen, but I have known about. Like
Right.
Perry Mason, Murder She Wrote, Dragnet. I've seen
Okay.
episodes of Dragnet,
Alright.
but like all that stuff is like sort of like law-based, crime-based, like olden day TV shows.
Does the newer one have that kind of dialogue that like it's a dog eat dog world and some days it's the
The
other
original
way around?
TV show doesn't have that. I mean, the novels don't have that. That wasn't Earl Stanley Gardner's
Right.
thing. He wasn't a noir detective writer.
Okay.
And by the way, the original novels, some of the most popular in literary history, by the way. So that's just me being like, that's not me trying to like diss your lack of knowledge, Frost. It's just me trying to like remind people. It's like, yeah, this was a very big deal once upon a time. It's like,
Mhm.
maybe they're not so popular anymore, but I feel like we got to at least pay homage a little bit. But Perry Mason is the show that kind of solidified like the structure of a legal show. It's like, okay, you've got the first half that is investigatory, like we establish the facts of the case, we establish who the major characters are, the suspects, the victim, the client, etc. And the second half is the trial and further investigation. So basically, if you've ever seen a legal show that follows that a crime show or a
Well-
legal show that follows that directive, it's because of Perry Mason. In fact, I believe there was like at one point, I think there was a newspaper columnist who compared watching Perry Mason to religious liturgy, because like that was one of the first shows that sort of established that kind of comfortable rhythm to a weekly show. I mean, in a drama, I should say, rather, because obviously that had been like a part of sitcoms for a while. It's like, okay, there's going to be a scenario that turns out all right at the end of every week. But I remember them saying that. I remember that particular piece saying that there was kind of like a comforting feeling to watching Perry Mason, knowing that no matter what happened, Perry Mason was going to crack the case in the end.
Oh, love it.
So
Love that
it's
kind of
weird to
stuff.
think that there was a time when that was not like the way shows were structured. But Perry Mason is kind of the show that established that in drama, in procedural dramas.
I'll give it a look. Sounds great.
Yeah, it's on my list. I'll be checking.
To be
out
fair,
the
I'm
new
talking
one.
about the 50s and 60s
Yeah,
version,
right.
not the 2020
What's
version.
this new one like?
It's an HBO original series, so it's good,
Yes.
but it's based on the old
Incest.
thing in order to.
Well, it's not based on the old thing. That's
Well,
what
it's
was so.
based in that. Here's the
It's the
name
same
of the
names.
thing. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's a reboot. Just like again, this is the theme of every conversation that we'll have from now until eternity.
This
It's
conversation is
back, like, it's
getting
coming back.
rebooted.
Yeah, but again, I have to adjust my mind to be like, okay, this is just a different artistic directive. It's not meant as a disrespect. It's just adapting this property for the sensibilities of modern audiences who have had their brains rotted by bullshit like Law and Order.
Hey, don't
Dun, dun.
besmirch the name of Law and Order.
Listen,
Order
Jerry,
is a-
Law and Order. When Dennis Farina left, that was when Law and Order became bad for me.
See, everybody's on like Law and Order, SVU, whereas I'm a CSI Miami enthusiast. Oh,
Who
yes.
are you? I have more
That's-
questions.
That like this weird mainstream rock star garbage.
And to be fair, I did
The
like
games.
Law and Order, whatever the one was with Vincent D'Onofrio was, because Vincent D'Onofrio can do no wrong. Criminal Intent, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Bum, bum.
That's the only one I cared. That one and anything with Jerry Orbach and Dennis Farina. That's what I enjoyed watching.
Listen, I'm immensely biased. SVU always has a place in my heart,
SVU 's
and that's
good.
solely because of the fact that my
It's New York.
mom used to work in Lower Manhattan, and one time I went to go visit her, and they closed down the streets, and she didn't know what was going on. They reassigned her. I just went with her, and then I met everyone that I needed to, and I was like, yeah, Stabler, all right, I see you. All right, Mr. T, how are you? Not to be confused with Mr. T, but you know,
The other.
Yeah, I was
Mr. T.
like, what?
the other T.
Yeah, the Mr. T.
Well, you know.
Nice.
Uh,
Yeah, those are 100% comfort food. Like the Law and Order is a series that if you walk into the middle of it, like you kind of like if you give it any bit of your attention, you kind of have to sit down and see how it plays out. Like that's
even
how
though it's
I've always
predictable.
You don't have to.
felt. For me, I have to. I get drawn in, and I'm not a fan of like true crime esque, media. But like that,
Unless
that's
it
one
was
show.
an anime, right?
Not even really. Like I started Psychopaths,
Are
which is
there
not true
those?
crime. That's like future crime.
Yeah, I
whatever.
was about to say.
Yeah, like it's not true crime at all. But I started the first episode of Psychopaths. Was like, meh.
It's
like-
trash. It's the worst
I
part.
don't like it.
Yeah.
But Frost, does that do it for you in terms of what you've been watching, playing?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry, Frost. I kind of hijacked you a little bit there.
No, I enjoy
No
it.
problem.
I haven't
Yeah,
done
chat
much.
has some questions. We will answer chat's questions.
But now I have something new to watch.
What's
Perry
Law and
Mason.
Order.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Old
Oh yeah, SVU, obviously, all seasons. Don't worry about it.
Perry Mason.
Well, that would be great if all the seasons were on Peacock. I don't know what Peacock is doing.
That's
No,
all right.
nobody does. That's their secret.
I don't think most of the streaming services know what the
I-
fuck they're doing anymore.
It's all right. I know a guy. We'll be fine.
This is why I was like, oh, I'll watch Perry Mason. I'll give it a shot. I can't afford the Max. I'm poor.
The
Absolutely
Max.
not.
You added.
I don't know what it's called.
You added more title than they even.
It sounds ridiculous when I say Max. Like, what
mean,
type of
doesn't
street
it-
drug am I doing?
Does you have Paramount Plus?
I have a VPN and unlimited possibilities. That's what I have.
Let's make cable again. Will.
So speaking of which,
Oh.
Will, what have you been watching? What have you been playing?
Oh fuck. Let's see. Watching. I'll go through the garbage first because I have to pull it up to the side. Speaking of garbage shows, Netflix did a thing called Perfect Match. It's a dating show. It's
Another
so
one?
fucking stupid. It's the fiance. She gets me. She said, I tell her I'm not interested. It plays in the background. I hear somebody go the fuck off, and then my ear perked, and then
Oh, cheese man.
it's so bad. And it's funny because you guys, when you were talking about the animes and things being extended and being so prolonged, and instead of being straight to the point, it makes me think of like, well, there's an audience for that. It's called telenovelas. You just mix it in with some anime, and then boom, you got it a little longer. So it's really not that far of a format, but I it's one of those things where I talk shit about it, yet it goes on, and I listen, and there it is. So that was a quick binge.
Yeah, that's what they want.
It's
They
funny.
want you to feel superior to what's happening on the screen.
I don't like
It
those, bro.
makes me feel superior. I think it just makes me feel like maybe I'm normal, you know? Maybe everyone else is stupid.
I feel like
Maybe
we're saying-
I'm well
I feel like we're
adjusted,
on the
is
same
it?
page here.
Maybe.
No, not for me. I
Um,
see those on the TV. I run out.
See, well,
Yeah,
that's the thing.
I can't
need
watch
to do
them.
that.
Like they physically hurt me.
Well, Honey Money is onto it because she's talking about hopefully it's not as bad as Love Is Blind. That's another garbage show that I just couldn't get away from.
pure garbage.
Here I am at 8 p.m. on a Sunday, refreshing Netflix, like yo, and knowing damn well it feels like all concocted bullshit, but I'm just drawn. You have to keep in mind, I grew up in the telenovela era where everyone was watching it, and I didn't understand what they were playing in these like Spanish and Mexican sort of fucking things, and I'm just like, why is there an alligator on set? I don't know. It's just excitement that just gets me, and I'm easily caught in now. I told myself I wouldn't be, and I also grew up on wrestling, and wrestling had the worst storylines.
Yeah, right.
Guys, come on.
Super.
Remember when freaking, not everyone's a wrestler fan, but like Eddie Guerrero and fucking Rey Mysterio fought for paternity for a child?
Like, I've been seeing so many flashbacks to like weird ass WWE, WWF like storylines. Like the Undertaker fought Al Qaeda at some point.
Yup.
What? I don't remember this.
It's
Like, I don't either, but there's footage. Like there's video evidence of how wild they were.
there was a lot of
crazy.
bad things that happened in that time.
See, I went the other way. I grew up in that household, same as you. Where was Ramon? What's with this gator?
Yeah.
Like, no, I had enough of that.
It's probably because you were like, if it was as in tune as much as it was like on television, it was bad. You know what I mean?
everywhere.
You're just surrounding it. I've also watched this movie, Peacock Champions. You guys ever heard of it? No?
Is the movie Peacock Champions or Champions?
No, it's on Peacock.
Okay.
My apologies. Called Champions.
Okay.
It's
I've not seen it, no.
God, Woody Harrelson.
Yeah.
And he's working with a whole bunch of he was supposed to be making his way to the league. It's weird because the coach is, I think the coach from Ghostbusters, not the coach, one of the Ghostbusters. I never watched any of the Ghostbusters movies, so I can't tell you. Ernie, the black one. I don't remember his name.
Oh, Ernie Hudson.
Ernie Hudson.
Ernie Hudson. Okay, so I do remember the actor's name. So he gets kicked off, and then eventually, for a court order, he has to go work with those who are mentally not disabled, but they have disadvantages. And it's one of those things where I felt bad kind of going into it because like I'm one of those people, and I know it's a trash movie. I kind of enjoyed Green Book. I enjoyed movies like what's that other one that they did? Oh god, Johnny Knoxville did. And he was working with mentally disadvantaged.
Did you say Green Book?
I know that one doesn't count, but also it's just one of those
Isn't
things
that
where
like the Oscar.
yeah, well,
nominated?
people give me shit for that because
that
of
was
the
an
fact that
Oscar
it's
movie.
racially insensitive. So then I'm just like, I just like the whole fact that the Italian man flipped the pizza and made it into one thing and ate it. It just kind of resonated with me.
I mean, it's Viggo Mortensen, right?
Yeah, but also in the same vein, that other movie that I'm
Marcello
talking
Ali.
about, with Johnny Knoxville, did not age well. And I can't tell you the name of it, but it was one of those things where they're working with the same sort of cast, and I was like, I don't want to be judged for this, but also like it's one of those feel good movies. Like regardless, just like, hey, we're all just trying to figure shit out, so like make the best out of it. That's what I got from it.
Watch this. How you feel about The Blind Side?
Never watched it.
Never mind. That's the most rented Netflix movie ever.
Okay, well,
How'd you never-
like
how
I
was that
said,
not one of you?
I will turn on my VPN and I will find things out from there. Okay, you know what I did watch that pissed me the fuck off? That I had to sit down and be like, yo, relax, it's not for you. The Super Mario movie.
Oh,
I haven't gone and seen it yet.
Let me tell you,
How
don't.
about you, Rachel? Have you
Have you seen
the Super Mario movie yet?
No, I'm waiting until it comes. I've already been like to a lot of movies lately. I can't afford to keep going to the cinema.
Fair. You probably saw it on better movies than the new Super Mario Bros. Movie because that was just bad. All
I
of
saw
it.
Dungeons
watch-
and Dragons.
Yeah, see, there's
I've
that.
heard Dungeons and Dragons were fantastic. 100%. I wanted to watch that. I was literally considering getting like those AMC or Regal memberships just to kind of watch a couple of those films.
VPN.
Okay.
I'm waiting until Super Mario Bros. Drops on streaming services. I'm sure it won't be long.
Yeah.
There too.
It's probably the best thing. I think because I paid money, I was upset. Obviously, a lot of people who know, like, I don't fuck with Chris Pratt.
Yeah,
The line's here.
Long-standing beef.
It's long-standing beef for somebody. You also got to keep in mind, I grew up I spent like 14 years in Brooklyn. And
we all know what Chris Pratt did to Brooklyn.
He did Brooklyn for like the beginning, like Mario Brother thing, and then that's it. He said, I'm going to attempt to do an accent, and every single sentence it will drop off. And it really annoys me it pulls me out. And people give me shit because I was like, well, you gave Luigi a pass. And I'm like, it's Charlie Day. It's a very distinct voice. I'm well aware that it's Charlie Day, but also Luigi for me didn't really have a defined like heavy voice outside of just like that's just stupid. So I kind of had an envision of how Mario was going to sound, and the fact that it didn't go there was fine. I love the fact that Donkey Kong beats the shit out of Mario. That makes me so happy.
A little bit, yeah.
But that movie is just it's a chaotic. It's what you get from an Illumination film. What did we really expect? It wasn't fantastic. It's great
Writing
for
was
kids.
on the wall as soon as they said Illumination was involved.
I don't have. Well, you hate for no reason.
I have a valid reason. Their shit is bad.
Nah, they're not. Tell it to
kids.
the bank account. I don't think so. So
That doesn't
Either
mean
way.
anything. Kids.
Have you guys
We all know kids are
heard of
stupid, right? This is
that-
a well-known fact. Kids are dumb. That's their
clip
market
that.
when they make
Somebody-
minion after minion movie, which are all
Please
bad
clip that.
movies.
Shrek was great.
I
Shrek
don't
is
know,
not
just-
Illumination.
Well, there's rumors that the fifth one will be.
That
So-
doesn't. That's not how movies work. You
Anyway,
can't just take somebody else's movie franchise.
you never know. Anyway, have you guys heard of a show called Jury Duty?
Yes,
Yeah.
Jack was telling us about it in
Yeah,
Milwaukee
I'm watching it.
because his cousin helped make it.
Really?
Yeah,
Ah.
Jack works on it.
It was fucking fantastic. The concept is that there's one person that's an actual person thinking that they're going in filming something regarding a documentary on jury duty, and everyone else is actors. And it was perfect. It was such a quick binge. It was so happy-go-lucky. Hearing fucking James Marsden go there and it was like, I went to go, I saw your movie, the main character, Ronald. I saw your movie. Oh yeah, what did you see?
Did you buy it?
Did you buy it? He said, no. He said, you should have. I would have got $1 if you bought it. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I just got into the part where they're starting to mess with him. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is juicy, all right. But I haven't had the time to watch more.
Dude, if you get a chance, it's fantastic. I think what sent me was just the fact that he was like, I was in Sonic. It was like, I didn't see that. I heard it was shit. Right to his face. And I'm like, Doug. Driving me up.
So it starts off as like a little odd, a little awkward, and that stuff hurts me a little. I get secondhand embarrassment from these people.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's the whole like it's scripted for everyone except him, and now they're getting to the point where they're starting to make some really strange moments for him. I'm like, all right, okay, I could watch.
Yeah, I think it takes once you start getting the characteristics and how they're starting to push in that direction, you're like, oh, okay, I can see where we're going. There's one scene that Frost, if you eventually will see, that's just ridiculous, just dumb in a hotel.
I mean, the whole thing's already ridiculous. He stands up and goes, "I can't be on jury duty. I'm racist."
Which is so funny because that's one of the first things I remember the first time going to jury duty. They're like, you should say you're racist. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'd rather sit down and just say, because they want to avoid getting into it. I'm like, I'd rather just sit down and just fucking take the L there. And then yesterday I watched Ant-Man and the Wasp, not into its full entirety. It's a shitty movie. It's
I
ugly.
thought you said Quantumania.
Oh, that's what I meant to say.
Oh, okay,
Ant-Man and the
yeah.
Wasp Quantumania. Yeah, that's what it's called. It's just
Oh, is
Ant-Man
it?
and the Wasp, and then it's the...
Oh, okay. Yeah, because
Quantum-
Ant-Man
the
and the
latest
Wasp,
one.
I think, is
There
just
was
the
a previous
second
Marvel
Yes,
movie that
yeah,
was
no.
just Ant-Man and the Wasp.
That's why.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I apologize. But yeah, no. Quantumania's bad. I'd rather watch Spy Kids 3D. It's a better movie. And it dropped
Shark
years
Boy
ago.
and Lava Girl.
Yeah, Shark Boy and Lava Girl. It's so funny because when I tweeted the GIF, I had this conversation with my fiance. She was like, that's from a whole different film. I'm like,
Same.
nah, it's not the same.
Same
'Cause,
same director.
Robert Rodriguez. What are you gonna do?
God.
But yeah, no. The only thing I can think of is that I did a review for Bramble the King, which is like a weird sort of like it's like a horror-esque game, but it has platformer elements into it. I did a review for The Escapist if you want to check it out. It's
Limbo,
not-
but it's Norse.
Norse. I said Swedish or something like that because I extracted that from the site that they had, and
Right.
people catch heart attacks. But it's all right. It's short. I don't understand what's with these short games thinking that they can charge these almost $30-$40 for us, and I'm like, it's not worth that. This is barely a wish list game as is. Why are we? Whatever. I don't know.
Frost did a whole cold take on exactly this not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
I did, didn't I?
He's like, I
Don't
did.
you remember?
No, I don't.
But also I'm trying to just breeze through it because I know time we're running low. I played last time we played was Crab Champions with Frost, which was great.
Yeah.
I can't get away from that one. I don't know why, but I played Overcooked a lot recently.
Okay.
And I don't know why. I beat both of the games, but I guess because it was like one of those PlayStation games that was like free. I just started yelling at everyone and having a good time. I see you guys were playing golf with your friends, which I recently picked up on Steam.
Nice. You should join us next time.
If I wasn't at Dave and Buster's getting slizzed, maybe. But it's one of those things. You get some churros, get some drinks, and you have a great time. But yeah, no. I played with Collision, and now it makes me want to kill everyone.
Oh, it's better with Collision, honestly.
It's 100% better with a Collision, but it fucking makes me so. I'm not the type of person to yell. I've literally played the game with, again, fiance. I bring it up so much. I'm sorry. She literally dropped the controller and had her fist up, and I was like, all right,
Hey.
maybe don't break the $1,000 laptop for a golfing game. It's just not worth it. But it was great.
The only thing
go on breaking the screen. It was like one of the memes you were ready to see. It's like Arthur. I'm like, all right, chill. The last 3 things I could think of, Slay the Spire I've been playing a lot recently. I think is just because I'm stupid and I bought the Steam Deck, and it's just been my go-to for everything.
Yeah, everyone
so
who
now
actually goes and gets one spends a ton of time with it, which is like I feel like I would get it and not touch it.
That was my fear.
Yeah.
That was 100% my fear.
Look,
but I guess I
look
just
at
jumped
that.
into other things.
What's your game of choice, Rachel?
I actually played Resident Evil 2 on this. I don't know why. I don't know why. I just felt like after I played Resident Evil 4, it's like I want to play some more Resident Evil, and so I just started taking this with me everywhere and just playing Resident Evil 2 on it.
Oh my
See,
god.
I'm going to go through the Resident Evil series too because of the fact that I'm surprised it even runs the way it does. Like like my next game I was going to mention was like I recently bought WWE 2K23 because I'm stupid. And it runs fine on the Steam Deck. Granted, the battery's going to die in an hour, but it runs fucking fine. And here I am freaking out thinking it was going to be a terrible. Great experience. And my most recent addiction, and I blame my boss, Cult of the Lamb. Growing up in a Catholic household, something just drew me towards the satanic craziness that was there. It's so cute. It's so stupid. I'm trying to figure out if I can get lumber. I'm sacrificing people. I'm fighting bosses and taking L's here and there. It's just everything I didn't understand the loop till I got like 2 hours in, and I'm like sunk into the sofa and realized I was on an hour lunch break, and my boss was like, "Can you help me with something?" And I'm like, "Wait, it's 4:00? What the? This doesn't make any sense. What is this?" But yeah, no, I'm thinking about them now. I literally had a dream where I was like, I gotta get more wood and get more like things.
Good God.
It happened. It was bad. It was bad. Recent addictions.
I've had that dream before.
I gotta get more wood dream.
Oh, well, no. Mine's been Merge Dragons. I've been playing that just in my free time. It's, just combine 3 things. I'll go out.
Oh, I played Merge Dragons.
Yeah, and I'll drive by this little park that we have, and I just see the new saplings that they put up, and I'm like, merge them, make a bigger tree. Like, it's the oldest at this point.
Jesus
Okay,
Christ.
so 3 of the 4 of us have dreamt of wood.
Yeah.
Let's not openly.
Boys.
We're gonna take this up, and it's
Mahogany.
gonna sound terrible. I don't want this to be played back. You ever
Oh,
had that wood
somebody
dream?
clip that shit.
It'll be okay.
Just like the mahogany. Okay, I'm done. That's it. That's all I got.
All right, so that concludes Will's section. Thank you all for sharing. We're gonna jump right into this Armored Core 6 trailer. We can start by basically saying like they announced a release date, which is much sooner than I was expecting, August 25th. So this summer we'll be getting our hands on Armored Core 6, which is FromSoft, the creator of Dark Souls, the creator of Elden Ring, creator of Sekiro, their latest game. Armored Core is a long-running series. It's the 6th of them, as that number highlights. But Armored Core hasn't really been that popular, especially not to the level of like Dark Souls and everything they've done since Dark Souls, we'll say. So what's you guys' excitement level for Armored Core? And like, has this trailer done anything one way or the other in regards to, anticipation for this game? I'm curious.
Huge, dude. I see. I wasn't a fan of the franchise because these games came out so long ago. You say they weren't that popular. This is what kept From Software afloat until Miyazaki came through. And I remember playing these demos and actually having the game, like one version of it. But I was a little tot, didn't understand English. But man, if it didn't feel so fluid. This is the first time if you go, what's the first game you played where you go, the controls felt amazing? That game, I was like, oh man, it just felt like I was a little mech. I was armored.
Was the Armored Core series pre Miyazaki? Like he didn't start working with From Software until when?
Yeah, they got all the.
Well, he wasn't president until 2014.
Yeah, I had all the King's Quest stuff. I don't know if did I say that. Yeah, and then the Armored Core stuff. He came through.
Kingsfield.
Kingsfield. That's the one. Thank you. He came through switching majors because he was an accountant before, and it was just unheard of to switch into development out of nowhere at an older age. And they let him do some stuff on Armored Core, and then they put him into the Skyrim clone, is what it was gonna be. That was Demon Souls, and they said this thing is trash. You can do whatever you want, and that's where he started getting like a big feel for him because he had total creative control. And then they said, all right, do it again for Dark Souls, and he just shot from there. Like he is crazy, but it is almost odd, given that Armored Core was their staple. This isn't like, oh man, I wonder what the Dark Souls guys are gonna do with this. It's like, no, we're good. Dad. It's like finding out your dad was in a band. You know,
they were the Armored Core guys first.
Yeah, they were the Armored Core band, and they're about to play some of their classics, and it's gonna be nothing like what you're used to now. But that's kind of nice because Armored Core kept the lights on, and then Dark Souls, From Software, all the new From stuff. Is giving them so much money, so much time and resources that they can go back and do the stuff that they loved.
But I feel like when I say Armored Core isn't that popular, I mean like no one talks about it. Like
to be fair, the last Armored Core game was 11 years ago.
Yeah, and that's fair. Right. And I did buy Armored Core 5, but I played it for exactly like an hour because I bounced off of it so hard. Like the one thing I remember is the level of customization and detail and like designing the mech was something I'd never seen before. Like I was like, oh, there's a lot you can do with this. But like I got lost in it in the way where it's like, all right, this isn't fun anymore because it's all like management. like I was like, okay, this is way too simulator like for my liking. Like where's the actual actiony gameplay or whatever. So like that kind of turned me off and I bounced off of it. But like since then, like I've not heard anyone like talking about any previous Armored Cores or Armored Core 5, which is the most recent one, with any sort of like reverence. And this is, you know, post FromSoft being one of the most talked about game studios in the industry. Like, you know, they've done, you know, Demon Souls and Dark Souls and all that stuff, but they've always also done Armored Core, and no one ever brings it up. Like, oh yeah, of course that their next thing would be great because they were doing Armored Core and that was great. Like that conversation never like comes up, which is why I was so confused as to like kind of like, all right, so where does this lie in terms of like public perception? Because as far as I know, people don't care about Armored Core.
You're not married to a mech enthusiast, Casey.
That's true. I'm not.
There you go.
I'm fully expecting. Oh, he's got his headphones on. I'm fully expecting to be assaulted with more mech.
So your fiance, he's an Armored Core. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, your husband. He's an Armored Core enthusiast, like that particular game series.
Yes.
He's familiar with and plays.
Okay. Oh yes.
So,
and by osmosis, yeah.
So I'm curious, does the stuff in that trailer look like Armored Core? Like that's very much what that game has been, or is this kind of a newer direction?
I mean, I think it's more of, how do I put this? It looks more like a boost than a reboot, if that makes sense. It feels like this is the this Armored Core game is the one that they've had. It's like, it feels like they're making the game that has lived in their head for the last 11 years, if that makes sense. I don't look at it so much in terms of like how similar is it to past Armored Core games. It really feels like this is the game that they've been wanting to make, but they've been limited by hardware and software limitations on previous Armored Core games. Now they can just go all in on making this gigantic and bombastic mech game. And honestly, it looks like a lot of fun.
It looks like the memories I have in my head, because I went back and watched the old gameplay, and I go, it's not ugly, but it's not what it felt like playing it. This trailer is what those memories feel like, especially with it's a very I don't know if I'd call it iconic, but that little side shuffle that they do as they're boosting sideways, I'm like, man, I remember the mobility in that thing.
Yeah, like mecha games. That is my favorite. I've always wanted like a really good mech game. Any mech game I've tried, I've been disappointed by. But like for whatever reason, the ability to just slide around, essentially Vanquish, like the gameplay from Vanquish, is what I want
Vanquish,
out
yeah.
of a mech game.
And I'm pretty sure Vanquish took that from Armored Core.
It makes sense.
I think I could be wrong about that. Actually, double checked, and it seems Miyazaki had been working on Armored Core games as far back as Armored Core 4. So
4, okay.
I don't want it to like be like it's like, oh, Miyazaki came along and suddenly they were the Dark Souls RPG studio. It's like, no, he's been working on Armored Core for a long time.
Mhm.
I think it's weird because it feels almost like Dark Souls was like their weird like artistic thing. It's like that's their Oscar bait, and now they can get back to making the cheesy movies that they actually want to make.
Yeah, Miyazaki is Adam Sandler.
It's silly because I have nothing against From Software games, but From Software RPGs, I have to learn to love them. Like, and I feel bad about that because everyone's like, "Oh, Elden Ring's the greatest game of all time," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I don't love it. It took me a long time to fall in love with it, and it's not because it's a bad game. It's just because it's not to my taste."
Mhm.
Whereas, I see the trailer for Armored Core 6, and I'm like, I love this, and I can't wait to play it. And I don't know if it's just the faster paced gameplay or what, but I am looking forward to Armored Core 6. I think it's gonna be fun.
How about you, Will? Any strong feelings one way or the other in regards to this Armored Core trailer?
Everything but Rachel said, but the opposite.
So
Because I don't give a shit about it.
your fiance hates mechs, and so you do too,
100%. That's how we
Osmosis.
met. We were talking about our mutual hatred of mechs. No, it just I don't. It doesn't move. I look at that and I'm like, okay. That's just literally. I'm not the best person to ask for this because at the end of the day, I'm just like, this looks like the demos that I played back when PS2 Underground or PS1 Underground was a thing.
Yeah. And
And I played it because it was there and I was poor and I had no games to play. And then I played it and I was like, what the fuck is this? And then I never touched it again. It's very similar to my Twisted Metal thing. Everyone's feeling excited about that. I'm like, I don't give a shit. And
Wait,
well,
what?
we've learned nothing
The
from this. I don't wanna
TV
go-
show?
You mean the trailer?
Yeah,
People are
yeah,
excited
I'm like-
for that?
No,
Yeah,
people are confused.
I'm confused.
I've
Because
had
it's
a-
Anthony Mackie just chilling there, and then Sweet Tooth.
Anthony
Okay.
Mackie looks like he's having a great time, and I'm like, you realize what show you're in, right?
I feel like I just have a lot of old heads that just love that series when they were younger, so they automatically are into it, and like they may have had some wrestling influence and having Samoa Joe as a wrestler, the main whatever clown dude, whatever. I'm just
Sweet
like,
Tooth, right? Yeah.
I don't care. It's just I don't like clowns. I don't understand.
this is
It's
what it's about.
okay.
It's got colorophobia.
I mean, I'm not. It's not as bad as you think. Either way, specific for this, like my boss sent me that trailer, and I was like,
Okay.
cool, kid. And I was like, anyway, about that raise, what are we talking about?
And then he sends you another
Maybe
trailer.
he'll be like, play Armored Core 6, and then we'll talk.
Well, he's done that for Elden Ring, and I'm like, I will.
Uh.
I'm not against Elden Ring. I just don't want to play it. I played 2 hours of it, and I was good.
Yeah, like you've generally been kind of anti FromSoft. Like most.
I don't think I'm full blown against it because Sekiro, like looking at gameplay and streams and stuff like that, it looks fun, like something to potentially play a little bit. But like that's it. It's like a rent for me. The best way to describe it.
Yeah, and to be fair, I will piggyback on what Will's saying. There's like Sekiro. I mean, in terms of like having like your like one's own from soft game, like one's own that they love best. Mine wasn't Elden Ring. Mine was Sekiro, and you have to understand, I'm coming from a background of like I'm a big Bayonetta player. I'm a big Devil May Cry player. So that's like I'm really big into hack and slash actiony goodness, and Sekiro is closer to that than Elden Ring was. So. I appreciate, there's a lot of people out there who are like Elden Ring, it's all FromSoft's magnum opus. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm curious. I want to see them go back to their roots. I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm
Hoping that
very
obviously,
curious.
saying that I'm hoping that obviously these things, like, it's. I know at heart I sound like a hater 9 times out of 10, and that's okay. But also understanding how much work and effort goes into the development cycle of it, it's just like, all right, I can't be mad at it. Like I tried to be mad at the fucking Disney Dreamlight Valley when that was a thing before it got into its early access phase. I'm like, this shit is stupid. Why? Just go play anything else. You can do Animal Crossing and have a better experience. And then I just got over it, and I started seeing people kind of getting obsessed over it in terms of like smaller groups from doing like some research and communities.
Well-
and I'm like, okay. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, Will, you do realize you're not the target audience for Disney Dreamlight Valley.
I understand that entirely, but I am well aware that I am kind of ambiguous in this because of the fact that, like, for example, I think Nick thinks I just want to play the kiddie games, the stupid ones that like Amy would pass up and be like, yeah, we need some coverage. I like them, don't get me wrong,
Give
but
them to
like
me.
but also like think about the games I've mentioned prior that I'm playing. I'm playing WWE. That I'm not the demo. I guess I'm the demo in the fact that I've watched as a kid, but I hate annualized series. I only picked it up because it was like $30, and I was like, yeah, I gotta scratch that itch. That was what it felt like for me. And because there's no other wrestling games that are actually of quality, I'm just like, all right, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
And then also Cult of the Lamb. That's not something that would usually be up my alley. Not at all. But yet here I am doing satanic rituals, pissing off my mom, and doing what I can. And I'm having a great time. So like, I don't know. My point of what I'm trying to wrap this back up to is that, like, obviously, if there's a general audience that is still from either old school or lapsing or just like brand new, and this piques their interest, I'm so down to see if people can join and enjoy it. And hell, maybe I'll give it a shot when it's on sale. But if you're talking about that trailer and the name recognition does nothing for me, and the trailer did nothing for me.
Fair enough.
So that's just kind of where I'm stuck at, you know?
Okay. That's a fair assumption, because like the thing that was like I was so curious about was, will people react to this like they have for like the past couple of From Software announcements, because those have all been very high in name recognition in terms, because they're a Dark Souls thing, right? But then Sekiro wasn't. That was a brand new franchise, and Elden Ring wasn't. That was a brand new franchise. But they did look more similar to what had come before than this does now. Armored Core does have name recognition, but like I said, like no one was talking about it. So I'm curious, like, will this one now, is this going to be like a mainstream type of thing for them now, since it's a post Elden Ring release? Or will it continue to kind of be, Armored Core has just kind of been this steady workhorse for them for however many years now, and this will be another one of those? Like, that's what I'm wondering.
Before someone goes, I just want to say I just noticed this, and you guys can't notice it because of blur on my chair. In the background, I have the same chair as Casey.
Oh, we have the same chair? Oh shit!
Yeah,
I just got this chair.
Okay. Anyway, back to the usual
Branding.
Frost is like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a different culture. Japan's okay with, like, if a game comes out and it's just a 5 out of 10, but the fans really love it, they're okay with that. That is a success for them. Whereas in America, if it's not a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, why bother? Kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be strange seeing that merge, where if this isn't as big as Dark Souls, imagine how many people would be upset with that. Whereas in Japan, it's just like, yeah, it's Armored Core.
Like, it's great. It's another Armored Core. Like, this is what everyone wanted, right?
Like, thing about games for fans is like, what was it? If you only like games that are 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, you're probably not a fan of the genre. You just like great games, as almost anybody does. I don't know anybody who just likes bad games. But when you're a fan, that's when you're okay with the 4 out of 10s, 5 out of 10s, you know, those lower grades. So Armored Core could come out and be absolutely mid, but it's for the fans, right?
Right.
I also don't think it's review scores that are going to be. I think it's more like, I don't think they're going to care necessarily if, you know, Armored Core ends up pulling 7s. I really don't think. I think they're honestly expecting that, because I think From Software knows that their reputation right now is as sort of like an auteur game developer. It's like, we make Bloodborne, we make Elden Ring, and that's what they're known for now. I mean, it would be like, you know, your favorite, like, weird, like, Academy Award winning director turning around, you know, after, you know, like, pulling in like 6 Oscars on his, you know, most recent glorious, like, you know, emotionally driven fantasy series or whatever they had with Elden Ring, all of a sudden turning around and being like, you know what, I want to make a damn Transformers movie again. I have missed it so much, and now I finally got the money to make another one. That's basically what was going on here. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the critical community, not necessarily the consumers, not necessarily gamers as a whole, but the critical community is a little bit like, well, this is not what we are used to seeing from you, and it's like, that's because you're just not old enough.
Right. It's so funny because I get this argument all the time. I argue with my boss, and he's always like, I don't listen to game reviewers. I'm like, neither do I. Don't listen to me. Please don't. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but at the end of the day, like, you gotta, for specific things, I will look to certain communities for specific things. Like, I'm not gonna go to a reviewer expecting like a full-blown great breakdown on the latest, I don't fucking know, NBA or whatever the fuck garbage is recently out that's annualized. Like, I don't care.
MLB
You know what I
The
mean?
Show.
Well, I love the show, right? And I'm not expecting to be blown away with the next annual release. It's gonna be cookie cutter. However, I just want to know if it's optimized. Did they add a certain game mode that's worthwhile, so on and so forth. So it's things like that where I'm leaning into it, and I'm like, yeah, if the critics are mad about it, wah, get over it. We'll be fine. It's like Frost said, this looks like a fan service based off what I've seen in previous gameplay or like the previous demos, and this. And I can see because I know people who are like the target audience for Armored Core. So whatever.
No, see, my
Get him on camera.
My worries is if it goes the other way, where it's like you become pop, right? But then you go, I want to go back to my underground stuff, and then your fans that you had from the underground days are like, yeah, let's go, let's get it. But the ones who were just kind of there for your pop, top 50 hits are just like, what is this? This is so weird. I'm not about it.
Yeah,
it's not like the pop stuff. So,
yeah, it's something that you can do because you've reached a certain level. Like, they're kind of free to go back to the roots that they want to, and they're not hamstrung by having to be like, all right, well, let's do Elden Ring 2 immediately after, or let's do Bloodborne 2. So, they don't have to do another sequel after achieving a feat like they did with Elden Ring. So, like, if they're happy to make this, I'm happy to play it. But I'd be very much into them taking some of those lessons, though, like the stuff that have endeared people like me to their games for the past decade. If there's a little bit of that blood in Armored Core and makes it an experience that I can actually finally get into, I'd be all for that.
Probably not.
But
well, I mean, okay. I think you should also consider Dark Souls probably influenced by Armored Core to a certain degree. It's not like it's not like they made that out of whole cloth. Mm-hmm. So I like to think it's more that From Software itself has improved continuously in the time since. So I like to think that their general level of quality has gone up.
Do you think there will be bonfires in Armored Core 6?
God, I fucking hope not.
Bosses with 3 health bars.
I'm sorry, I swear a lot more when I'm with you guys. I don't know why.
That's a bad influence.
Yeah, you're bad influence on me.
Yeah, no, Armored Core is, old Perry Mason. So that's what happens there.
Armored Core is old Perry Mason. It's like, maybe it wasn't to your taste, and maybe you mock it now, but that's just because you're a youngling, and you don't know that it influenced everything you've got now, and I'm so excited my camera is blurring.
Your camera just said, I'm going against the grain at this point.
My camera's just like, okay, I need to stop her. How do I do this?
All right, any lasting thoughts, final thoughts, I should say, on Armored Core 6, or the trailer, or its release date?
It's going to be great, and I can't wait for the flood of videos going, this is nothing like Dark Souls. That's it. That's all I'm looking forward to.
I'm just, do your Optimus Prime stuff. I don't care.
It's more like ninjas.
So we'll move on to our final topic.
Here we go.
All right, everyone leave. Rachel's going to go.
Long road to get here, but we finally have an answer from the CMA on Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard, and they said no dice. They voted to block it. They said that Microsoft did not do enough to ensure that there would be healthy competition in not the console game space, but in the cloud game space, which was kind of a weird reversal because all their complaints had to do with them, taking control of Call of Duty and taking stuff away from PlayStation. This now is them kind of saying, all right, we don't care about that anymore. But Microsoft kind of has all the makings of a monopoly in the cloud gaming space, and an acquisition like this would only further that gap and kind of box out other people, which some have said seems a bit preposterous based on how the landscape is today, which is kind of almost non-existent. Like, yes, Microsoft is probably the biggest player, but it's like a very tiny piece of it's a very tiny market in the grand scheme of like other markets where you consider monopolies, etc. And also the fact that a couple other cloud gaming companies who are direct competition have spoken out in favor of Microsoft after this result. Like Nvidia, for example, was standing to get access to Call of Duty if this deal were to close, and now they won't because of CMA's decision. Yet they're saying they're doing it on behalf of competition in that space. So what are you guys' reactions, I guess, to their decision, to kind of what this means for either cloud gaming, for Microsoft going forward, or like the CMA's mindset in blocking this deal?
Everybody wants to kill Sony. Everybody wants to kill Sony. See, what was it? One of the things that they used in the ruling, I think, is that COD can't run on the Switch.
Yeah.
So that whole, you guys are gonna put Call of Duty on for Nintendo
Switch for
stuff,
10
but it
years,
doesn't
yeah.
actually run on it. I was like, yeah, I never thought that was actually any sort of justification. Has anyone actually tried playing COD, like Nintendo versions of COD?
No, they've
Garbage.
been notoriously bad.
I played it on
yes.
the DS. It wasn't great.
Played
Yeah,
it
they've
on.
always
I
been
played
lesser,
Modern
worse
Warfare 3 on
versions.
the Wii. The thing was absolutely
On the
trash.
Wii, it was fun though,
It was a
because it
horrible
had
thing.
the stupid. You could put these stupid accessories, but I
Yeah,
might just be the
so
minority in
funky.
that regard.
And see, I never found it to be a genuine argument of the whole like, yeah, no, we're not competing with Sony. Look, I'll give Nintendo anything they want. Nintendo doesn't care about you. I feel like Nintendo just wants to see the downfall of Sony as well, more or less that. And
They
this
created
is
that monster.
possibly,
Yeah, they would love to see them go down.
yeah, this is but this is an attempt to stop it. They're gonna just find any and all reasons. I don't think they're all the most justifiable, but I expect them to be locked for a very long time in this.
So you think the CMA genuinely wants this deal to not go through? Like this isn't like a ploy or a means to get something like a better deal for Microsoft. This is them saying like, no, don't do this. We don't want this.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Any other opinions on that? Will, do you want to?
You know, I have not been tracking this. I'm letting
Will has to
Rachel-
go first. He annoys me because
Okay.
he's telling me, it's like, oh, Rachel's going to monopolize the conversation. It's like, oh, no.
Oh, no,
you
no,
go
no.
first, Will.
Allow me to lean this in. I'm saying please take the dominant way of conversation because I don't have the background for this. I just know I just want to play games. I don't give a fuck where Call of Duty goes. If Call of Duty disappears tomorrow, it's okay. I don't
Will's
care
on
about that.
jury
'cause
duty
it's
So
here.
just-
so one way or the other, you're saying this decision does not affect you. Like you weren't looking forward to possibly getting Call of Duty in a Game Pass
Yeah.
subscription.
It's
or-
not that big of a deal for me anymore. Like,
Okay.
it's just either way. What it's gonna end up happening is that whether it goes through or not, there's still gonna be more people throwing more money, attempting to make things remedy this. And I'm just like, at the end of the day, as a consumer, I don't rely on Game Pass as often as I should, and that's on me. But like, what happens of it? Like, unless it becomes like where at the end, and maybe I have my blinders on, where it just becomes shit for the consumer. Like okay, if you want to spend your money, go ahead. I already know Sony's a piece of shit, and I'm not gonna lie, I can't really say the same for Microsoft. So whatever, it just kind of is what it is for me.
All right.
Actually, I will build off of Will's point a little bit because one thing I want to remind people is like everyone was all like they were all up in Sony's face because Sony was involved in the conversation, which they have a right to be.
Mhm.
Let's be fair, because they are the competition to a large degree, or at least they're perceived as such. But I want to encourage people, like, don't be an unpaid cheerleader for a major competition, for a major conglomerate, whether
Sure.
it's Microsoft, Sony, whoever. Don't do their work for them. Don't necessarily. I want to encourage people to not necessarily buy into the whole propaganda that Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard and having access to their catalog. I think the arguments for how we, the gamers, the consumers, benefit from that are paper thin. I think, which is not to say there aren't benefits that'll trickle down to us.
Mm.
My point being just that let's not all turn around and be like, oh, darn the CMA for blocking this like major this $70 billion acquisition that we don't actually benefit from and directly in any way. Like, I'm just trying to encourage people, don't automatically side with Microsoft just because it's a government telling them no. And the other thing I want to say is it's a bold strategy of Microsoft to basically try to turn around the minute they get told no and say that the people who are making this decision don't know what a monopoly looks like. Because their whole like response to this has been like, well, we just don't think the CMA seems to really I mean, this is not just Microsoft, but this seems to be like the general tone of coverage is that, well, the CMA just doesn't understand the cloud gaming market, you know, implying that the mechanism in place is just too old to understand this all emerging tech market. They know a monopoly when they see one. And my whole thing is I'm just really skeptical about the idea of cheerleading for these major corporations who are fighting to own a bigger piece of the... Let's not kid ourselves. Microsoft wants to own the biggest piece of the pie, especially since Sony is completely bodying them in the console market. And let's not sit here getting angry at Sony just because they were asked to be involved in the conversation.
That is a really good point. I do want to say that is something that I had my eyes open to over time through the entirety of like this back and forth with the decision on CMA, is that, yeah, like monopolies in general, no matter what you may feel like you as a consumer will get out of them, are probably just not great, like just in the long term, right? But with that being said, I have been upset with Sony, not necessarily for just this stuff, but just their very anti-consumer behavior for a while now. Like Sony has just made tons of decisions that fly in the face of any logical person who would want to be a fan of like the stuff that they release. They just make it harder to afford and spend money and time in that ecosystem. And I do root for Microsoft in the sense that I want them to make Sony sweat a little bit and try a little harder, because Sony sits so far ahead that they kind of don't have to, in the way that Nintendo doesn't listen to anyone or anything because no one has been able to touch what they do forever. The fact that Nintendo is in direct competition with PlayStation and Microsoft, yet always seems to somehow stand outside of it, is a testament to how much like industry cachet they carry. They don't have to be a part of this acquisition discussion, because whether Microsoft owns Activision Blizzard or not doesn't affect them. Nintendo will still thrive. Like, that's how weirdly big they are as a video game entity. And if either Sony or Microsoft got to the level where Nintendo had to react to what they were doing, I think that's better. And like, yeah, Microsoft buying the biggest publisher in the game for $70 billion, probably not the best solution to that in the long run, but it is one way that they start to catch up a little bit with the competition, to make Sony sweat, to make Nintendo
But this
sweat.
isn't about the console competition. It's about cloud gaming.
Well,
that's
which
Sony is not even involved with. And I don't think it's a good idea to sit here and say, like, you know, it's like, oh, this is really about XYZ. I mean, granted, the CMA said what it's really about. Granted, they said it in a 400-page report that takes forever to read. But they have outlined very specifically what this is about and what they're afraid this merger will lead to, this acquisition will lead to. And I think I think you are on a good train of thought there, especially with, you know, pointing out that Nintendo is involved with this, even though they've kind of tried to hold themselves separate in some way. But I do want to say that I don't necessarily... Again, I'm saying, like, let's not cast Microsoft as the underdog here. They are not the underdog. They are a very, very they are a very moneyed organization who are literally paying to have a bigger piece of the pie in an emerging tech market. So I'm saying, let's not cast this as like, oh, you know, Microsoft versus Sony in the console war. Is Sony so far ahead? Microsoft's just trying to catch up. That is the party line they've been trying to sell this entire time, not just to us, but to the regulators. They're like, oh, look at little old Microsoft. We're no harm. We're no threat to anybody. Can we please have this $70 billion company now? That is literally. I mean, I'm not even being facetious. This is what they've been. This is the vibe they've been putting out, and I don't want to buy into that, because, again, this is all like trying to, you know, they're also courting the public opinion here a little bit as well. But I mean, if you look at like some of the actual details that are in the CMA's report, and granted, I wouldn't blame you if it takes a while because it's a 400-page report. But like some of the things that they mention is that, Microsoft doing all these like 10-year deals with Nvidia and such, where it's like, oh, we'll totally put our games on your platform. It's like, yeah, that's great, except Microsoft retains 100% of the profits that they would get from those, from like, for example, Call of Duty being available on GeForce Now or PlayStation Plus, which are also cloud gaming services. It's like, great, except they retain 100% of the profits. So it wouldn't be encouraging cloud gaming competition. It would be basically Microsoft parasitizing these other cloud gaming stores and turning them into offshoots of themselves.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and
I mean, the
that's
CMA
significant. Yeah, that's significant.
The CMA also has like a lot of concerns about whether like having, because again, the whole thing with Call of Duty, it was never about whether Microsoft will not let Sony have Call of Duty. We know that that would be stupid because that would literally be them turning down money if they took it off. What they are afraid of is that it will offer Call of Duty on Xbox Game Pass, which would cause the value of Game Pass to shoot up exponentially, because then everyone will be like, well, why would I pay $60 to play Call of Duty on PlayStation when I can literally just have it on my subscription services at no additional cost? That's one of the things they're worried about, and they're also afraid that once Microsoft has that market cornered, they can just raise the price of Game Pass.
Yeah, and to be honest, that is something that I fully expected, but also something that as a consumer I am kind of understanding of, because it is significantly more value, especially if they go forward with putting all of those very high profile Activision Blizzard games on Game Pass day one. Like if Diablo is on there, if Overwatch is already free to play now, so I guess that doesn't count. But but like, just, you know what I mean? Like just all of their catalog, if that is just included, as they said, like all their first party studios are included in Game Pass, that does raise the value of it. I wouldn't mind paying an extra $5 to $10 to get access to that service.
You're bugging.
But should
Am
you?
I? I mean, should
Yeah, I don't. At that point, I
Now,
just don't.
let me propose an alternate scenario.
Uh-huh.
Let me propose an alternate scenario to you. Microsoft doesn't acquire Activision Blizzard. Activision Blizzard is available on both like PlayStation Plus. Well, again, let's keeping in mind that Sony does not have a robust cloud gaming solution like Microsoft does, because Microsoft has Azure and all that. I'm not going to get too into the weeds with it, but say that it's available on Game Pass day one and PlayStation Plus day one. Now the two have to price competitively, because they each want to be able to offer perks to bring consumers to their to their party.
Is that not?
It's not just it. Well, what do you? That's why I'm proposing.
Yeah, isn't that?
That's why I'm proposing that scenario to you. It's like,
yeah, that would be an even better scenario. Is what I'm. Yeah,
that's why I'm saying. That's why we should be against monopolies, Casey. You shouldn't just say, yeah, it's fine if Microsoft has all the first party solutions and raises the price.
No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying.
You're part of the problem, Casey.
No, because
no. I'm just trying. I'm trying to get Casey. I'm trying to offer a different perspective.
What she's saying is like, what if it was different? Like this isn't the only path to get to this sort of solution, right? Where you can get that sort of game on a subscription service. My line of thinking is, and that's only based on kind of how things are now, is that was never going to happen. Like Activision as its own entity, they're not putting Call of Duty on a subscription service because they get value out of just selling the game for $70, $80, $90 if it's a special edition, like to all the platform makers equally, right? Microsoft is the one who's incentivized to put stuff on their service because that service is kind of the bread and butter for their games industry, because they're so far behind in terms of like selling first party titles outside of that and also just selling consoles, whatever. So like that's why I see the acquisition as a path to that way more so than what you're describing, where it just ends up on those services separately, because Sony has no interest in that either, because they don't directly make money from that. So like, why would they pay money to put that onto their subscription service, which they kind of only, and this is why I also am kind of in Microsoft corner here. Sony has only created the PlayStation Now thing and changed it and tiered it the way they have because of Microsoft's Game Pass service. Like it has made them sweat. Like it's not something they wanted to do. Like they're fully happy just making you pay $80 for every single game that they release. but like Microsoft is making them have to try and change up their thing and be a little bit more appealing to the consumer in just that bit of a way. So like whatever Microsoft can do, even if it's a $70 billion purchase, I'm kind of in their favor. I get the dangers of it for sure, but I want to see the monsters fight in like in a more level playing field.
He said, "I need some popcorn." Watch them battle.
Like, because in the grand scheme
Yeah,
of things, like, monopolies are bad. Yes, monopolies terrible. Cloud gaming is only a small piece of just cloud infrastructure in general. Like there are other big players like Google and Amazon that aren't focused on gaming right now, and Microsoft as well. Like they have a lot of cloud infrastructure that's just for other business stuff. The gaming section of that, though, I don't think is as detrimental. Like if that stuff becomes like if we're only talking about video games, I feel like the damage that could be done by like these monopolistic companies is minimal in regards to like society as a whole, if you get my meaning. That's why I'm willing to kind of take this one on the chin. Because like, yes, monopolies are bad in general, but a video game monopoly can only do so much damage to the world, is what I feel like.
I think you're being a little short-sighted there, Casey.
Possibly.
And also consider this is not about Xbox versus PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
This is not like, King Kong and Godzilla going at it. This is just about the emerging tech market and making sure that Microsoft cannot literally buy it. By the way, they're not doing any extra work. This is literally them buying their way into the top position, which I'm not even mad about that. That's what big corporations are supposed to try to do, and regulatory bodies are supposed to yank the reins back and say no, don't go that way. You're not allowed. And I think, one of the things that they mention, like, I'm just going to read directly, if I may. They say, "We recognize that having Activision's content available on Game Pass is an attractive prospect to some customers, and something that, based on the comments we received from the public during this investigation, seems to explain much of the support for this merger by those in favor of it. On balance, we found that having this new option to pay for content that is already available on a buy-to-play basis on Xbox would not outweigh the overall harm to competition and ultimately consumers arising from this merger in the sizable and rapidly expanding market for cloud gaming services." And they say, having Activision's content on Game Pass would represent a new option to pay for content that is already available on a buy-to-play basis on Xbox, and it would only represent a better value than the status quo for some consumers, which in any event would only start to accrue sometime after the merger completes. Moreover, we expect Microsoft to have the incentive to increase the price of Game Pass commensurate with the value enhancement of adding Activision's valuable content to it. And we found that even a moderate price increase would significantly reduce or eliminate any potential relevant consumer benefits.
I don't think y'all understand. If they acquire it, all they're gonna do is put like Warzone and maybe an exclusive COD Zombies on Game Pass, and that's enough to buckle Sony.
But this isn't about Sony.
For the culturalness. No, not so much.
Y'all, this is a paper tiger. Forget Sony. This is not about them. This is about Microsoft literally trying to buy the entire competition.
No, that's what I'm getting at, though. And the thing that is standing in their way, that's why it's just like, don't root for anybody. I want them both, all of them, to cripple themselves in this long court case that draws out for, 20 years. It'd be great. There will be children who just only know a world where Sony and Xbox are fighting. That will be magnificent. But no, it is just fighting. Them.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, it is just them essentially just going like, okay, I'm not the number one, but what I can do is as number two, buy out 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and not do anything with it. I can just hoard it. And once I have all of that, like, you're going to need me eventually. And that's why their moves, it's not so much Xbox versus Sony. It's just Sony is kind of the last line of defense. Not a noble way. They're just in the way, as a matter of fact.
Well, because notice in all of their, sort of like, oh, little old Microsoft, we're no threat, which I find incredibly slimy and disingenuous, by the way. Like, Microsoft, your marketing people, do better, because that's just gross. All of their things, they have never once said, we're not putting Call of Duty on Game Pass. They've said, oh, we'll sign 10-year deals with Sony to make sure that, we're not keeping Call of Duty away from them. We signed a 10-year deal with Nintendo. We signed a 10-year deal with NVIDIA GeForce. Great. But you're not saying you're not going to put it on Game Pass. That's the sticking point. And the minute you put it on Game Pass, not only are you trying to artificially draw consumers to your product by literally paying to have better, to have like tastier candy. But the minute they're there, you can bump the price up, and there's nothing they can do about it.
See, that's the thing. I don't think it is. What is it? What should I freaking call it?
I believe in you.
Yeah, no, I'm trying. The bloody words. Like, even though it seems so
Sorry, I'm sleep
superficial.
deprived.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Even though it is so superficial, that is a big part of the market because Call of Duty has a major esports section. And the console that gets the game first is where everybody goes. Because it used to be, yeah, COD on Xbox versus PlayStation, but then PlayStation cracked out the exclusivity deal, let them have an Call of Duty first. They all switched to Sony because they wanted to practice the game first. That's so just imagine, even though it's not about Sony versus Xbox, they know that they're targeting technology and they're targeting the culture so that they can have their monopoly. Not so much like, oh, I'm not a threat, you know. That's not really about Call of Duty. I'm just trying to express myself, expand my horizons, if you will. But no, it is more a threat for consumers because let's say if they do buckle Sony or if they just keep on buying more stuff, then that just threatens us because once they have it all on their end, they can do whatever they want with it.
I mean, with all the points being made, like it still seems better that the companies stay competitive. That there are ways that they can make the other one nervous. Like even the threat of this deal, should it not go through, has made Sony nervous, and I like that. Like I like Sony has been coming up. That Sony has been coming up with like nonsensical. No, not even like as interesting as that. Like all the news stories and stuff is like just just generally speaking, for a big company to be like, we need to send out spies for this other group so that we know what they're doing, so that we have to like grease some palms so that we can get, you know, information ahead of time. Like the fact that they're spending time, energy, resources on trying to deal with competitors is good. That means that they care about like what their products are going to do versus other people's products, which means if Microsoft has something that is of comparable value but is costing more, they can, or costing the same, that they can try and undercut it in price or overcut it in quality. Like that's what competition is. And I feel like Sony has not really had to worry about that sort of thing from Microsoft.
Well, I don't want to, I'm not cheerleading Sony either, but I'm just going to ask you, Casey, say this acquisition goes through and Microsoft owns the biggest game in town, literally, with Call of Duty. How does PlayStation compete with that? How do they build a cloud gaming solution that is going to have a comparable library of comparable quality? Because yes, everyone's all like, yeah, Sony's first party exclusive and all that. That's not Call of Duty. That doesn't sell Call of Duty numbers. How do you imagine they are going to build something that can compete with that? And not in the sense of like all of PlayStation versus all of Xbox. I'm talking specifically, how do they build a Game Pass competitor? That's what they're talking about. That's what the CMA is concerned about, is literally like removing, like literally Microsoft buying the biggest chunk of the pie so that Sony is not capable of making something of comparable size and value to the consumer.
I would argue to that point that the fact that Sony could not compete with Microsoft buying that big a piece of the puzzle is because they haven't wanted to. Like the writing was on the wall for a long time that the subscription service, that Game Pass, was something that the market wanted. And Sony dragged their feet about getting something even a little bit comparable. And once they did get something comparable, they still kind of set aside their first party exclusives outside of it because they feel like they are too valuable for such a service. But literally sticking their nose up at what Microsoft was doing because they're too good for it. So all of a sudden, putting a game of that high quality on a subscription service is that much of a market changer. Whereas Sony could have put the stuff that they lead the market with today, God of War, Uncharted, on their subscription service and blew Microsoft out of the water. 100%. If Sony launched their Game Pass competitor with all of their first party stuff within the library as opposed to set apart from it, they would have competed with Game Pass. 100%. They didn't want to. So it's weird that at this point they're like, oh no, don't let them go even further in that direction because how are we going to compete now? Like I feel like I kind of don't care. Like they missed their shot.
Yeah, but it's not about like whether or not like we want Sony to win. It's not. It's about
No,
whether
I want them
we
to
win.
compete,
Yeah, I want them
and when they
fighting.
compete, we win. That's what I'm getting at. Like,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah,
I want
but they
them fighting.
can't
Sony
compete.
because
That's what the
Sony was
CMA
so
is.
far ahead. That's why. Like, Microsoft came up with a really, really good idea. An idea so good that despite them losing to Sony in first place, Sony had to react. But Sony didn't have to compete. They only reacted. And like now, Microsoft has built up enough cultural cachet that they want to take it another step further. And now Sony's scared. Like that's what I get. That's what I see in this whole deal.
Well, this is why I keep telling you, forget Sony, Casey. That's not what this is about. I'm trying to engage you on this terms, but I think you keep saying like, yeah, but Sony needs to, be incentivized to compete. But they can't compete if Microsoft buys that they can't build a restaurant if Microsoft buys literally all the spare buildings in town. That's the point. Is that I want them to compete. That's why I want this acquisition to be more. I want it to at least be more scrutinized. I want everyone to like. I want everyone to stop being like, yeah, screw Sony, go Microsoft or whatever.
So
I want them.
I think we got mixed
Let's
up.
reverse
Yeah, I think we got mixed up there. Where like I don't want the merger to happen at all. But I want Xbox to keep on pushing it, and I want it to keep on getting blocked. That's what I want. I want I want them to lock up there because that's what keeps Sony honest. Was like, no, baby, I can change, and it's like Xbox going, no, you've had your time. It's my time now. I got you roses and flowers, and it's like those flowers are not real.
And that's not how antitrust regulation works.
Well, let's look at it from this perspective then, right? Let's say the CMA is not going to budge on this. They will not be moved, and Microsoft has to accept that they cannot buy Activision Blizzard King.
Well, it doesn't say that they can't buy it. It just means that they won't be able to do it within the UK.
Sure, but like,
this is very complicated.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Like, it's sort of a domino effect, right? Like, the UK cannot be the only holdout. Like, the FTC in the US have threatened to sue. So, like, on paper, they don't even want to do this, right? Yeah, it's just Microsoft feels like they can get around it. They also feel like they can get around this, by the way. But like, let's go full hypothetical. Let's say like this causes a domino effect. Folks really get into the nitty gritty. They start doing their research and they're like, hey, we have legitimate reasons why this will not work. The consumer will be screwed over. You cannot do it. Microsoft loses public opinion. It's blocked. In that world, on paper, Sony wins, right? You're saying it's not about Sony, it's about Microsoft, blocking everyone else out, etc. But in this new scenario where Microsoft is kind of they're still in a position that they are now, how does that benefit the consumer in that regard? Like, what can Microsoft do at that point to try and compete with Nintendo and Sony, who are kind of leagues ahead of them in the market?
But they're not ahead of them in the cloud gaming market. That's where Microsoft has the edge. They're just trying to increase their market share.
The edge, I got it.
Yeah.
Microsoft edge.
So this is an appeal to the future then, because the cloud game market exists, but it is still new. Like, it's not something that's going to be bringing them in tons and tons of money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will say I'm not entirely on the CMA side either, because I do think they're being I think in some cases they are being needlessly like they're sort of like casting things as like, well, we have no way of knowing if the consumer will do something like this, when it's like, well, there's plenty of evidence to back up that this is how consumer behavior is going to go. And again, I don't want to get into like the nitty gritty of the report, because some of it there's a lot of like weird, like boring legalese in that report, but I'm saying that I don't necessarily agree with their rationale either. But I'm just saying that I just don't want everyone to buy into the whole party line of like, yeah, we want Microsoft to have like an edge in the market because they are failing epically in the console market. And by the way, I as much as I know like Sony has an edge, let's just be real. A lot of Microsoft's failings there are their own fault.
That is true.
But
yeah, they dug
I
just the hole that let Sony get where they are right now.
I just want to make sure that we don't like fall into the trap of like thinking that this is a PlayStation versus Xbox thing, because it really isn't. And personally, I think that, in the future, if cloud gaming gets bigger, which is what Microsoft is betting on, I think it will be better if everyone has more access to the developers. And by the way, this isn't even getting into like what knock-on effect this is going to have on the developers. because yes, because if Microsoft buys Activision Blizzard King, then of course they get the games on. They can just put Activision Blizzard games on Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the people who aren't owned by a major publisher? Like, do they just lose money putting their games on Game Pass? Because otherwise, what's the only game in town?
But why would they lose money to be on Game Pass though?
Because I'm saying, like, if this goes through and Xbox Game Pass becomes the major cloud gaming solution, if you want your game on a cloud gaming service, you have to put it on Game Pass, even if putting it on Game Pass where people aren't paying directly for your game means you are selling your game at a loss. Does that make sense? I'm trying to coherently make a point.
I don't know, because I feel like because it is a bit of a mystery how Game Pass functions, but I think the prevailing theory is Microsoft pays developers for their stuff on Game Pass. So like, rather than
I have to interject. I have a friend who's works at some indie company, and this guy just makes like these shovel shitware games that you would see on Steam, and they happen to get on Game Pass, and I'm talking like 6-figure deals. And I'm like, for this garbage, even if it's only there for 2 months,
you just called the game garbage to his face.
He knows it's garbage. He refers to it as shit shovelware. So because of that thing, he knows what he's doing. However, it's traditionally, I don't know for the long scheme how that works, they usually get a payout.
Yeah, that was the impression I was under, is that a lot of these, especially the smaller ones, like the AAA ones is probably slightly different how those work. But for a lot of the smaller ones, like, they get paid up front to put their games on Game Pass, and that gives them the visibility, that gives them a built-in audience, and it gives them money for their work that is less risky than if they would have just put it out into the market and kind of wait for organic sales.
Which is a deal that most developers are willing to take. But I'm saying if Xbox is the only game in town, they don't necessarily have to pay competitive prices to developers to get their games on Game Pass. Developers are just going to have to basically like take whatever Microsoft gives them. Just to your point, Will, a lot of games take 7 figures to make at the very least. 100%. So a 6-figure payout for a 7-figure game, that's not, I mean, that would be encouraging people to make shit shovelware games that cost very little to make.
Mm-hmm.
So no offense to your friend, but since he's the one who said it.
I understand. Listen,
what games?
Not a direct connection. I'm not going to air them out, but
I want to play.
It could be. I mean, and that number can go down. That number can go down to, like Lampy said in chat, it can go down to 5 figures. It can go down to, well, we're paying you in exposure, aren't we?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that is like a definite thing that's going to happen, because I don't want to catastrophize. Sure. Yeah. But I'm saying that's what the CMA is afraid of. That's what they're trying to guard against to a certain extent.
Go ahead. Sorry. Your comment was more worthwhile than mine.
I'm just saying that I don't think the CMA is going to. I guess my final overall impression of the topic would be, I don't think the CMA is going to block this indefinitely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's going to. I think it's going to block it, and then as Microsoft works on an appeal, it's going to propose compromises, because Microsoft proposed a compromise and the CMA didn't find it acceptable. So there's still negotiation to be happening here, because Microsoft's idea of a compromise is, well, we sign these 10-year deals with our competitors to put the games on there if we get to keep 100% of the profits. So that's Microsoft's idea of a compromise, and this is basically the CMA, the UK authorities going, that's not good enough. So I think what's going to happen is that there is going to be more negotiation behind the scenes. Microsoft is going to have to probably show their belly a little bit more than they would like to.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think this is going to block it indefinitely. I think it is just going to make for more compromise. It's their way of trying to leverage more compromise.
So I mean, that's ultimately a good thing, right?
That is a good thing.
Yeah, if there are more concessions made from all parties in regards to this thing. So if the deal does go through, what are some of the concessions that you think would be better for the consumer down the road? Like, what do you think the CMA would like to see Microsoft offer?
Free Xbox.
They're pretty much throwing them away anyway.
Free Xbox.
You don't need it.
Free Xboxes, yes. Well, I mean, just to address one of the specific things they mention, if Microsoft wants to offer its games make sure they offer Activision Blizzard games, things that are not necessarily first party, but things that are owned by Microsoft, made by developers who are owned by Microsoft. If they want to offer in other things, they have to agree. They only take a specific cut. 30% is industry standard, not 100%.
Mhm.
So you offer a game, you offer, say, Call of Duty through PS Plus, or whatever, and people buy battle passes, for example, through for the new Call of Duty game or for Warzone through PS Plus. You only take 30%. You don't take 100%. You skim a little off the top. The rest of it goes to Sony.
I just want to boost Sony the whole time, just because of the fact that I'm working with some other people regarding some things, and I'm just
I'm
yeah,
not
I
on
wanna boost.
Sony's side either, but I'm saying that
Oh, yeah,
everything
of course.
being, all the eggs being in Microsoft's basket doesn't benefit us either. So
No,
I think,
100%.
yeah. So that's
Here's-
the only
here's-
point. I'm sorry if I've been like really like
No,
acidic, but I'm
This
just like,
this is why it's important that you were on this particular episode, because the details of this stuff can definitely be skewed from the public. Because like Rachel mentioned, a lot of the reporting on it has actually been very anti-Sony, pro-Microsoft, and there's a reason for that. It's because they're gamers, right? Not that Rachel isn't a gamer, but Rachel pays attention.
oh,
That's the difference.
I work for GameSpeed. I literally have to.
But like,
We
but yeah,
don't-
like
so
I
we don't have
love
those
the nuance
kinds of
the story.
restrictions at the escapists.
The only thing I can attest to from frustrations wise, and this is obviously in a different perspective, is just working with these companies. It's weird, these monopolies, these huge things. I don't have anything bad, especially if they hire me at one point. That we're all friends, right? But the point of what I'm trying to get at is that working with them from a developer standpoint, and even slightly, because I'm mostly in community, but seeing those behind the scenes conversations, and I'm like, yo, y'all don't. You guys claim you're one thing, but you're not, and I've seen it on both sides. I'm like, all right, well, at this point, we're putting up a facade, so like, whatever. For me, it just seems like rich, greedy kids being rich, greedy kids and arguing and throwing money at each other for it. I know it's obviously way deeper than that when you talk about it. Well, it literally is, but it's just it's a bit frustrating because for me, I look at it and I'm just like, I'm unpopular with my opinion. I'm like, is Call of Duty worth this? No. Is it a quality game? No, it's the same shit over and over again.
Yeah.
We're fighting at dumb shit, and we're gonna make it more expensive for the consumer at the end of the day. And I'm just like, for me personally, you know what I'm going to do? Not give a shit. Wait till it's cheap and then pick it up when it's like in a bargain bin. I know most people are gonna probably spend and go through their process.
Bargain bin if this goes through.
If
Like
this
Nintendo,
goes
this
through,
stuff never
but
goes
also,
on sale.
Let's put this into perspective. If this goes through and Call of Duty is no longer affordable from an MSRP standpoint, I don't care. I'm not spending the money. The only reason why I have the new Call of Duty is because I sold my friend my old PlayStation digital, and it was cheaper to get the PlayStation with the Call of Duty bundle, and it just came with it. That's it. I haven't touched the story. I don't want to touch the story. I had friends who are executive producers for this thing, and I'm just like, cool. I'm not going to talk shit because I'm not going to pretend that Ubisoft doesn't put out gold every time. It's just like, it's not my cup of tea. I've outgrown what they're primarily trying to sell us. So at the end of the day, if it's just like, hey, you gotta pay $100 for Call of Duty.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment in that, yes, I am also very much over Call of Duty as a gamer. But like, we're paying attention to, the game on a macro level. Like, it's still,
I know.
Yeah, it's still selling. Yeah. It's still popular. Like, there's still fans who gravitate to it. What I am wondering is if this deal does go through with no caveats, like, how long will it stay that way? Like, under Microsoft's tutelage, like, they've not been able to handle any of their other first party titles with that level of sort of dedication and success. So like, would Call of Duty degrade? Like, would it become less of a commodity? Could something new come and unseat it because of that? I'd be interested to see, but
they're gonna be making bunkers out of Call of Duty Foundation.
Yeah, and two counterpoints. Just because I've been like really down on Microsoft, I feel like I got to say something negative about Sony and Nintendo too. I think you're right about you're right on one major point, Casey. I think one of the main reasons that Sony has dug their heels in and tried so hard to be anti this deal, whether or not I don't consider the enemy of my enemy to be my friend. And the reason they've dug their heels in is because they don't want to have to compete. You are right about that. They don't want to have to change what has worked for them for so long. And this Like the whole deal, like you said, putting out a big expensive console, putting out big exclusive, first party games, that has worked for them so far. They don't want to have to change.
Mhm.
That is, so you are absolutely right that's the main reason they're so against this, is because they don't want to have to change the status quo. And as for Nintendo, that's a perfect example of what happens when you have a monopoly, because when's the last time a Wii U game was being sold for less than $60?
We use
Wait, Wii U games are still being sold?
Yeah, they are. And they're still
Wow.
$60. Nintendo does not have to lower the price because those things are not available on other platforms, because
gonna
they
make
have the monopoly on those
then?
games.
What then for
And
your
again,
bargain
that's-
bin, Will?
This is
Yeah.
where I'm the consumer that's just like, get your shit together. I don't give a fuck if you're Sony, Nintendo, PlayStation, or
That's the
fucking
thing. No, there's
GameCube.
literally no one who can
garbage.
make them. When they're
Yeah.
that far ahead of the competition, no one can force them to get their
Because-
shit together.
Because Nintendo owns them. They own those properties. They don't have to lower the price. So that's a perfect example of what they're afraid is going to happen, except on a grander scale, if Microsoft gets hold of all these properties, is that, there's going to be no benefit for us, the consumer, and because Microsoft is not incentivized to offer one.
My approach to this is the lesser of two evils. The more you give more attention to this shit, the things that are valuable to it, like actual like Call of Duty, this, that, and the third, like these Nintendo games, I would never happen. Utopian society, I would dream it, but it's just don't spend your money that way. There's so many other indie games, older games you can revisit, newer, like you don't have to go down that line. So I guess that's where I'm just disconnected, because in my head I'm just like, if I don't care, you will not see a cent from me. And I wish people would adapt that, because what will happen eventually is money talks. And there we are. We're trying to figure out, Call of Duty, all this other stuff for the pricing. Okay. All right, then we
But-
just won't play with Game Pass. Fuck
Well,
it.
that is what the regulators are for, because it shouldn't be on us to deny ourselves access to the latest Mario game if that's what we want to play, and because it's not on us to be like, well, I'm just not going to play it because I don't agree with Nintendo's policies. Yes, that helps to vote with your wallet, but not everybody can. It's not our job to do that.
I know,
That it
I
is the
know, I
regulators'
know.
job to come in and say, hey, stop that.
But the worst thing is that I don't trust anybody,
who
whether it's the
that
regulation,
Nintendo?
the
No,
regulators, the
that's
companies.
totally understandable,
and you
because there was a
shouldn't, yeah.
lot of corruption, and I would not put it past Microsoft to grease a few palms to try to make this happen. So I'm agreeing with you that you can't necessarily, but if you're talking utopian society, that is what the regulators are supposed to be doing,
Mhm.
is pulling companies like that up short and saying, hey, you can't do that.
Until
I'd
they
love to
slide
see
a $100
maybe.
bill behind their pocket. Then what?
Right.
Hey, you're the one who brought up a utopian society, so I'm just saying, like,
in
in a perfect world.
Yeah, I don't know. It's silly. The more I think about it, it's like, really, I don't know.
It's about the money. Like behind all of the artistry of the mechanics, the gameplay stuff, it's all money. It's a product. And
Yeah.
like these companies got to sell it. They got to close out. They got to beat out competition. That's why the government entities care, because it's about the money, and there's a lot of money to be made. There's a lot of money being spent. So like
This
we
just
gotta
sounds like-
follow where it goes, and a
Yo.
lot of it has to do with Call of Duty.
See, the enemy of my enemy is not my friend, but I like it when my enemies fight.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I don't care about
that's
either of
me
them.
right
I just
there.
want them to to
Yeah.
be doing something that is not like that makes things easier for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't agree with any of them. I think I've been on here before when we talked about their rulings. The way it's think of the people and not little old me. I was like, leave me out of this. This is between
Yeah,
you
don't
guys.
use me as a scapegoat.
Don't use me. Leave me out of it. But I hope they keep on pushing and burning their money for it. And I hope they keep getting blocked. I don't care if it's like, y'all got unpaid parking tickets at Microsoft. You can't have it. It's like, give them any reason. Block them over and over. Just keep
And
them burning
Microsoft's being pretty friggin' gross by basically like publicly threatening the UK that they'll pull
Yeah.
their business out of the country.
You're like,
Again,
you
that is what
backwards
every
ass.
big company does when they are told no by a regulatory body.
gonna take our
That's
ball
what they
and go
always
home.
do. But it's still
Yeah.
gross.
Because they
Who
already
cares?
spent all that money. They're like, all this stuff I just purchased, all that land, so to speak, only works if I kill Sony. So now they're like, I kind of owe money. There are gangsters waiting for Microsoft money somewhere in dark shadows. And they're like, hold on, guys, the deal's coming. I swear on it. It's on its way.
Yeah, so like I would like to see a version of this deal pass still, for sure. Let them
course you
cave
do.
to a bunch of
Of course you do.
concessions. Let them make more sense. To kind of stave off the threats of like a bad Microsoft monopoly. But like, if this doesn't go through, Microsoft is gonna put that money to use somewhere else. So like, we're gonna have this conversation, but just like 4 to 5 new ones of other companies that sort of all equal up to an Activision Blizzard, right? Like over time. So
Yeah.
this is gonna happen one way or the other. I'm just being a realist.
Yeah. That's fair. And I do agree that there needs to be something that makes Sony like there. I'm perfectly fine with disrupting a Sony favorable status quo. That because that benefits us, like you said, that benefits us in the long run anyway. So I'm in total agreement with you there, Casey.
Like,
All right. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
like it. I like it. I think it's a silver lining. That cold take I've done, the most popular one, New Age of Gaming, is based on these guys just fighting over and over. So as you said, Sony, knowing they can't compete with Xbox in the cloud, they start making their own cloud system. And as they just keep on stalemating, they have to keep on improving, trying to keep up with each other. And in the end, that's it. When you can't brute force your way with money, you have to go to public appeal. And I guess that's why they're trying to make themselves look so good. And when you go, haven't I been good to you? It's like, well, you still haven't given me Bloodborne. So, that's the kind of stuff that makes them act right. I hope they keep. I hope this is their forever war.
Also, Casey would be remiss to not tell everyone that this episode was sponsored by huge monopolies like Google, Facebook, Visa, so on and so forth.
Sponsored.
Amazon.
It's not
Amazon.
sponsored. Is it made possible by these services? Yes.
Say
They're not
shit,
paying
depending on
money.
what you want
They're not
Bezos.
paying money, so it's not sponsored.
I don't know. Let me see a bank account.
They should give you a little of that.
I would
They
take
should
it.
give you some of that.
I would take it.
Full disclosure.
Okay.
I would take their billions. Yes.
Let's wrap this bad boy up. Drop me up the wall. I will take it. He said, anyone who gives me the highest amount of money, I'll take it.
Will, so
Brother.
altruistic. You're telling me you turned down millions of dollars from Amazon to do the Will C. Blog show?
There's
That's what you're
only
telling me?
there's only one company I would ever deny, and I stand by this with millions. I'll throw billions on it. Is Meta.
Oh.
Fuck Meta.
You wouldn't take any
That's-
meta money. No amount of meta
No.
money.
You can't
Incorrect.
You can't pay the rent on integrity, Bill.
Yeah, well,
Can't do
unless
it.
I'm in that situation, unless the chips are down that hard, fuck Meta.
No,
Like I'm not sitting here telling you that like my opinion or like my
It doesn't buy
integrity can be
groceries.
bought. I'm saying I will do a job for a
can't be
paycheck. That's what I'm telling you.
My
Little
honor,
foot soldier, you.
my integrity can be leased.
Oh yeah, least. It will definitely least, but
for a
it
little
doesn't take.
bit. Why
Casey,
not?
I'll trust you. You talk about all this Monopoly stuff. Look at all those Nintendo games. Aren't you gonna do a stream at 2:00 doing about a Nintendo game? Fuck off.
Yeah.
They don't like him though. It's okay.
I mean, I
They don't
do
like the
conf-
game I'm playing, so
I mean, my company. I'm preparing to do a conference in May with a bunch of people, with a bunch of these major tech companies. So like, I can't pretend I don't know them. I can't
Yeah, of
pretend I
course.
don't have their phone
Oh, you
numbers.
should.
But
You
it's
should,
it's
though.
but
Who
it's,
are you?
I'm sorry. I'm Rachel. Calm down, sir.
Exactly. So I can't pretend that I'm not like. I can't pretend like I'm completely aloof from the situation.
No,
from,
of course,
like,
but
big
but
tech
Casey,
monopolies.
but Casey has terrible takes, so we have to lean into that. That's
this
just
is coming from
No.
Will.
it's part of the culture.
This is Will.
No,
telling
I
you
just
have
like
terrible
arguing
taste,
with him.
so.
That's all.
I like arguing him too because
It's
he
fun,
thinks-
isn't it? I love to argue in general. So
I'm a passive
This is
man.
you start the credits, guys.
all right, we've been here
I
long
just love
enough.
arguing. I just love arguing with you guys because there's not this whole sense of like, the minute somebody voices a contrary opinion, it's like, oh, I'm sorry. It's like,
Right.
it's like,
yeah, you
come
can
here,
have
we're
you
here
can
to
have
discuss.
an adult conversation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not
But
why
Casey,
this
though.
show was formed. Thank you guys so much for joining me once again. Thanks everybody in the chat for indulging. Frost, what do you have coming up that folks can see? Where can they find you?
Got on the Escapist channel, newly released. We're checking out Cassette Beast. That's going to be fun. And the patrons get a new cold take this Monday. It's going to be a blast. Yeah, that's it for me.
Nice. Rachel Kaiser, where can folks find you? What do you have coming up?
You can find me on my Twitter, speaking of big monopolies, at Rachel Kaiser. Everything also goes through my Facebook. If you, again, speaking of big, it's really hard to find things that are not big monopolies. I'm also on Tumblr.
Oh,
Edgy, yeah. Actually, but yeah, I've got I've been writing some of my own stuff in addition to, if you want to catch me up on news stuff, you can find me over on GamesBeat, with venturebeat.com/games. Everything goes through Twitter. That's why I tell everyone to follow my Twitter, because everything just automatically goes through there. And if you want to read my personal stuff, I just put out like a little mini essay about the characters in Resident Evil 4 because I thought that would be fun. And I'm planning to do some more game specific stuff on my blog. But in the meantime, we've got Stay Golden Sunday today, which is the Golden Girls post, which I know everyone waits all week for. And then tomorrow we've got our Masonry Monday post where, if you want, we're going to talk about some old school Perry Mason.
Nice. Will, where can folks find you? What do you have coming up that they can check out?
Ooh, well, we like Twitter, so at Willsy Vlogs if you want to do that. I have a 3MR that's dropping, if it goes day and date, May 4th. I'm not going to say what game it is. You'll figure it out. That's going to be fun. Also, do pay attention to that code take that's coming out. I laugh every time I do the closed captions on that asset. Every time I'm like, this man does not talk like this. This is hilarious. But the upcoming one is fantastic. I'm a big up on that one. And yeah, I just lean towards the Twitter portion because I've just been doing more creative stuff. I randomly have been ghostwriting and writing and having more fun with that bad boy. Well, you got to make some money somehow. You saw me rap with yeah, you got to do what you got to do. You see me rap with some geezers on TikTok. It's fun. We do our things. So yeah, we're having our fun there, and I think that's all. I yell. That's it. So type in at We'll See Blogs on the Google if you want to see me yell about things, and that's that.
Nice. And as always, you can find me at SigmaGears9 on Twitch right here, or on Twitter, that Hellscape. I have a review that dropped last week, I think, 3MR Straight Lights. Check it out. Like Will mentioned earlier, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'll be over on the Open Party Twitch channel. We'll be playing Super Smash Bros. Ultimate for Super Smash Sunday, which is just it's everything Nintendo did not want for the Smash franchise, and that's why we revel in it. Just highly competitive Smash, no items, no fun to be had. No, it's actually a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
When you swap in the Street Fighter?
As soon as it comes out. But no, I mean, Super Smash Sunday will still be a thing. But I'm going to dedicate significant time to Street Fighter once that drops.
When are you going to start doing your Fortnite Friday streams?
Never. I'm not going to do that. That's you and Jeff's thing.
You have terrible taste
on the joy YouTube bros are having in Fortnite.
Because we need you for the bots. You understand how skill-based matchmaking works?
But I think that's pretty much it for me as well. So once again, thanks everybody. This was a fun conversation as usual. We'll probably be back next week. Can't think of a reason why we wouldn't be. Therefore, take care. Have fun. Goodbye. Bye.
Bye.
Later.